conduct a rally in Nairobi today to advance fresh poll rigging claims. The president said he won the election fair and square, dismissing Odinga as a man out to get a share of the government. Ruto said that he is focused on serving the people of Kenya who voted for his government overwhelmingly.
We will not allow our country to be a hostage to threats and blackmail by a few people who are looking for their personal interest. Ati watu wachache waende kona pale, ati watupangie njama ya kututisha, ati wanatupangia sijui maandamano, ati sisi tuwache kushughulikia mahitaji ya wananchi wa Kenya, ati sisi tukuje hapo ati tushughulikie mahitaji yao. Wamezoea hiyo tabia, lakini we are telling them the end has come. There is no more. Ile mulipata kwa vitisho sasa iwatoshe.
This is Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua told of opposition leader Raila Odinga that the Kenya Kwanza government will not be cowed by threats and intimidations. Speaking in Kirinyaga County, Gachagua said that Raila was reenacting his previous theatrics that forced 3 former regimes to accommodate him in government.
Na ndio nataka kuambia huyo mzee ya maandamano, tafadhali, please, enda tafuta wenye walikuwa na kuunga mkono. Wachana na huyu rais wetu. What you are doing is what you have done all the years. Rais wetu na kuomba kwa niaba ya wale tunakusaidia. Hii mambo ya hii mzee tuachie. Dawa ya hii mtu ni mtoto ya maumau.
And a section of members of parliament allied to President William Ruto have dismissed allegations by Raila Odinga's Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition party that last August presidential election results were manipulated in favor of President William Ruto. Kiharu MP Ndindi Nyoro and Ugenya MP Devu Cheng cited latest outbursts that Raila's votes stolen in Mount Kenya were fictitious and lacked merit. This is Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition party co-principal Martha Karua insists that opening of the Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission service is the only way to put to rest allegations that last year's presidential election results were not manipulated in favor of President William Ruto. In a series of tweets, Karua, who was the coalition's party running mate, affirmed that time is ripe for Kenyans to know what really transpired during the vote tallying period and events that led to the declaration of President Ruto as the eventual winner of the presidential results. Karua remarks come ahead of a major rally in Kamkunji by the leader Raila Odinga, who expected to address a People's Baraza consultations to discuss recent disclosures by a whistleblower on the conduct of the 2022 general election. Opposition leaders led by Mathare MP Anthony Olwoch and Embakasi East MP Babu Owino reiterated that the rally will be peaceful and meant to tell Kenyans the truth on what transpired during the 2022 elections.
Kwa yetu itakuwa ni amani, hatutakuwa na watu kuleta fujo ama kuleta makelele. Kwa hivyo tungetaka pia police ambao watakuwa na tupatie ulinzi, watupatie ulinzi wa kutosha, kwa sababu hakuna mtu atakuwa na vurugu ama hakuna mtu atakuwa amepanga vurugu.
Tunatarajia kwamba askari wapeane usalama safi kutoka JKIA mpaka route yetu nzima mpaka tufike Kamkunji tumalize mahutubiano yetu kesho.
We will announce the last and the final election results, the 2022 election results at Kamkunji grounds. In 2013, we moved from the wolf in Izakasan into the hands of the fox in Chebukati. And as a result, Chebukati has made this nation suffer political oppression.
There is no reason why we can pretend or continue to pretend that we are one country.
We continue to follow up on this developing story. Be sure that Newswire and the entire Standard Media Group will be bringing you the very latest when they occur now. New details have emerged regarding the boat accident off Watamu Beach in Kilifi County, which saw a tourist glass boat MV Holiday Jabulani capsize, killing 3 passengers. The boat was carrying 28 passengers, including captain and crew on board. According to a statement from the emergency response at Watamu Marine Park, it has been discovered that the ill-fated water vessel had taken tourists, that is 13 Kenyan residents and 15 foreigners, on a snorkeling tour. The number on board, the report indicates, had exceeded the capacity of the vessel and therefore acted as a huge contributor to the capsizing when the vessel was hit by bad weather. A collaborative effort from the county rescue team, KWS, and private volunteers to rescue the passengers saw a total of 24 tourists saved. I'm Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
102.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on Spice FM.
Congratulations. You've seen the hand of the Lord.
Thank you very much. I've earned another title today this morning at Spice FM. Mama Justice, I don't mind it.
Joel in Kericho.
Salama sana Heri, habari ya asubuhi.
Salama bwana, mambo namna gani?
Salama kabisa bro.
Mambo ya Inamoi kuliendaje?
Mambo ya Inamoi, vile nilikwambia ndugu yangu, alienda asubuhi na ile gari ya kwanza.
I must have missed it.
So did I.
Even if somebody was to render you irrelevant, there is still work you can do.
Okay, sawa.
I deserve to keep you accountable. You deserve to give me a report. You don't work for me. No, I don't work for you. You work for me.
Do you like that Freudian slip? Lovely, isn't it? Thank you very much.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
What does Monday morning traffic look like? A little bit of it building up on Uhuru Highway, getting out towards the city this morning. And we're also seeing that Kiambu Road might turn out to be quite busy. A lot of folks moving in and out of the city today. Schools do open from today, going out till tomorrow. And so we will see heightened levels of traffic, a lot of it outbound from the city. Just getting towards that Muthaiga Square, some traffic is building up. And if we look on the other side, then coming in from Langata Road, some traffic is also building up as well. Looks like it's going to be a busy Monday. Where are you? Tell us what's going on so that we can keep things moving this morning. At least spread that information and we can keep it moving. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. That's where you can get in touch and we'll move through the morning.
.9 Spice FM, Mombasa. This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room.
It is indeed the only way to start your day at 8 minutes after 6 o'clock on this 24th of January, 2020. It's 2023. All right, getting into the morning, and this is what we have in store for you today. How was your weekend? Hope everything is going well as we kick off the last week in January. Actually, that's what it is, isn't it? The 94 days of January coming to an end in about 7 days or so. So the sun is coming up and the sun will shine again, n'est-ce pas? Yes, it will. All right, some conversations lined up for you today. The Honorable Peter Mutuku Mathuki, who is the Secretary General of the East African Community, will be in the hot seat at 7 o'clock. And we'll be looking at the EAC and how the Monetary Institute will enhance regional integration. Continues to be a conversation that we will have through time. All right, exam results came out over the weekend and there's been a lot of chatter about exactly what did or did not happen. Two gentlemen will join us in the studio this morning. Onesimus Mutio and Jasper Ondimo were talking about trusting the veracity of the just released KCSE results. Again, a lot of chatter about that. What does it mean? What does it portend? What exactly happened? And those are conversations that we'll be reflecting through the morning. At this point, I say good morning to these fine specimen of gentlemen. CT, Eric, good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, fine specimen of a lady. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Okay. So Jasper is not going to make it, eh?
Why?
He has an emergency, but Moses Kimani, an education expert, will be coming in his stead.
That's a conversation for what? 8 a.m. Sindio? Hiya. How was your weekend, Bonabuga?
Quiet.
Anything new?
Nope.
Good.
Yes. It's warmer. Yes. I actually found I could walk about.
You can test.
Yes, I can walk about without a jacket or... Yes, it's warmer. It's distinctly warmer.
Good. In this room.
And when I go for a walk, I actually break into a sweat.
Nice.
So.
So now you're kind of weather.
Not particularly. Yeah. You know, there's a distinct discordance here. There's what I like and there's what my body likes. Okay? I actually like the cold. My body doesn't like the cold. Okay?
It is you and the body.
Yeah, that one we've decided that we each has their own preferences and we learn to accommodate each other.
Okay. Ndu, how was yours?
My what?
Weekend.
Oh. It's all right. It's okay. Kuda. It was all right. Yeah, not bad. Here we are. Another week.
All right.
How are you doing?
I am well. Yes.
Wonderful.
Mine was good too. Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation, everybody. So, Ndu, you'll tell us about COVID and how it's doing.
I will.
Okay.
Just now.
Yambi.
673,326,984. That's what global numbers are looking like. Let's take a look at what's going on locally. Ministry of Health tells us that in the last 24 hours, 3 have tested positive from a sample size of 111. Again, low numbers, well under 5%. This is kind of where you want to keep not just corona, but any disease, really. If you have a footprint of under 5%, and that's interesting because I read that and I thought this was something that they come up with just for COVID. But no, if you look at the infection rate of any disease in the country at any time, you want to keep it under 5%. And if you do that, then you're more or less okay. Now, so you know that it is the year of the rabbits. Did you know that? It's the year of the rabbits in China.
Okay.
And 80% of the population have had COVID in China.
Okay.
80% of Chinese population
900 million people
have been infected with COVID, according to this story. I'm a bit cautious in believing this.
Why?
I don't know. It seems like a lot of people have had COVID in one country, right? I know that the population is quite huge. I know that. But I don't know. Is it possible that you have such a large disparity between what the state organization is reporting and then what other media is reporting? Is it possible? They're not looking at those numbers.
What is the government saying?
The government is not even at a million. The government is not even at 1 million cases of COVID in the last 6 months.
But they've stopped testing and doing all those things.
Yeah, sure. I mean,
since they stopped those measures, and there was widespread COVID infections, what does that have?
The global numbers of COVID taken from these sources is 673 million. Global. So now what we're trying to say is that China alone has had 900 million cases of COVID, and this is in no way impacting on world reports of 673 million cases.
Because it's not official.
Okay, but for me, it just looks a little bit odd.
80%.
80%? I'm sorry, but that tips the scales for me in terms of believability.
Okay.
But anyway, what are they saying? That this is the time of the Chinese lunar year. So China's saying Happy New Year, 24 days after the rest of you did it, but all right. The chief epidemiologist of China's Center for Disease Control and Prevention said Saturday, the eve of the Lunar New Year, that the present wave of the epidemic has already infected about 80% of the people in the country of 1.4 billion. His claim came amid concerns that the travel rush takes place around this holiday period. It's dubbed the world's largest human migration. And they're saying this could spread the virus to the countryside and cause a second wave of infection.
To the remaining 20%. Okay.
So there's remaining 500 million people because of this, festivities and holiday, whatnot, that they could get infected.
Okay.
But there's no way you're going to tell people not to travel. It's their new year after all, and they always do it. And after all, it is the year of the rabbit. So, why? We have to travel. So they're saying that 2 billion, that's the billion with the 9 zeros.
Yes.
Passenger trips could take place over the next 40 days. 2 billion trips could take place in the next 1 month and 10 days.
Okay.
So people are going across the country, family reunion, people are traveling, for the first time since COVID came. So are you thinking they're going to say, because people are talking about COVID, then we will stay at home?
They've been told they can travel, so they'll travel. Yeah.
They're saying that they should be careful, however, so that the remaining 500 million people don't get infected with COVID.
But how come there's this story of herd immunity that seems to have disappeared?
From China?
Well, if that number of people have been infected, we can then assume, therefore,
they have herd immunity.
Yes.
They've been infected and so they won't get it.
Yes.
Well, yes.
Because the conversation around herd immunity was that you needed a certain critical mass of people to be infected before you can say, okay, now, where we went to this point, we'll just be living with the disease, but we don't have to worry too much about it.
Yeah. Yeah. It seems that that's the strategy that China has basically adopted. Yeah. It's 17 minutes after 6. Kenya's biggest conversation takes the break to take a look at the weather forecast. We are live streaming the show on YouTube and Facebook. Are you online? Where are you tuned in from? Let us know. Are you in the country? Are you outside the country? Which part of the country are you in? Let's know. We will be doing our usual shout outs after we take a look at this weather forecasts.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
When you're impeached, you're impeached. When you're sentenced, you're sentenced.
Madam Chief Justice.
Until the sentence is set aside.
Ukibeba vitu kwa roho utakufa. If you carry things in your heart, you will die.
You've had the luxury of living for 50 years and you cannot still explain yourself. Surely. Oh my God.
The reason for which you went to school and then gathered experience, that reason must be paid for.
All right.
Okay.
This level.
Shape up or ship out.
Levels don't change.
No.
Since I'm not shipping up.
You know my business partner here.
Shipping out.
Are we talking about the ship in the bathtub? Or
the ship man?
Emmanuel Talam used to tell us a story of they were in school and they've been told to write composition about a ship. His classmate raises a hand. Teacher, are you talking about the ship or ship goat?
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
15 degrees and partly cloudy conditions in Nairobi. We'll go to highs of 25 through Monday. And it's 14 and cloudy in Nakuru, highs of 26 and lows of 12. It's 9 degrees in Nyeri, highs of 25. And we'll see highs of 25 in a clear Eldoret, currently at 10. Mostly cloudy conditions in Mombasa, highs of 31 and lows of 25. And looking into Malindi, it's cloudy at 26. We'll see highs of 31. 29 will be the high in a mostly clear Kisumu, currently at 19. And it's 17 and clear in Eldoret, in Kakamega, highs of 29 and lows of 14. It's 19 and mostly cloudy in Kampala, highs of 27 and lows of 18. And we'll see highs of 31 in a cloudy Dar es Salaam at 26. 14 and clear in Johannesburg, we'll see highs of 29 and highs of 32 in a mostly cloudy Lagos at 27. It's 22 and clear in Kinshasa, highs of 31, coming back down to lows of 22. Monday afternoon reads -4 and mostly sunny in Beijing. We'll see highs of -4 and get this, lows of -17. It's 1 degree and cloudy, a snowstorm in Paris, highs of 4, and we'll see highs of 4 as well in a -3 hazy London. This morning, it's 3 degrees and rainy in New York. Sunday night, coming into Monday, there will be flooding with highs of 6 and lows of 4.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. 94.4 Spice
Who's
FM.
online at 6.
Umazi Mwachiti. That's a name from, I know it's Kokwale there. It's a Duruma name. And there's also a name in Igbo, Umazi. That's very interesting. It says, Watu wanguvu, hamjambo. Blessed week ahead to Dani. Good morning to you. Zachary Ondeo says, good morning, Spice. Kakamega is fine. Fantastic. The threats of Professor Kindiki to Azimio are misplaced. All right. Though I do not support Raul's decision to hold the Kamkunji rally, why didn't they present this evidence to the SCOC? Which evidence?
He's one of rigging. This is new, Bwana. New.
Oh, okay, sour. Hot air.
This is new evidence. New. By a new whistleblower.
Nyakach Makapambu says, good morning, big team. Jane Duta says, good morning, CT, Eric Ndu, tuning from County 001. Cheers to you too. Yes, we know. 3-2 is what it was yesterday. Well done, Eric and the boys. He says, Eric Latif, 50 looks good on Arsenal, top the table.
You know.
Have a good week, everybody.
You know.
Yeah, Hera 042 tuned in this morning.
Wait a moment.
Arsenal
that
won.
team that Eric supports won.
Yes.
Man, are we going to hear the end of this?
No,
of course not.
The Reds beat the boys who normally are red. Oh, yeah. It was a good match. It was a good match to watch. Odero Jr. is tuned in from the Great Wall of Kino. And Gikonyo Zachary says, good morning. Hope your weekend was lit. Zachary said lit. Zachary said lit. He said, mine was having gone to my Camp David equivalent. What are those?
Retreat.
Streaming in line from Ukunda. Babu Kanja Roberts says, what? 94 days of January. I'm wondering when our salary will be deposited in the bank. But January. Haijakauka sana. Okay. Robert Zibogo is tuned in this morning from Mombasa, and Pablo says he's tuned in as well. County 041. He says, good morning. Arsenal is on top of the table. We have heard now. Rakama Derek is tuned in and said, Tunaskia. Paul Buru is tuned in from Bamburi, celebrating Arsenal this morning. Okay. Good morning, everybody.
Why are you hating?
I'm not hating, no.
Why are you hating?
It's good to celebrate. Well done, boys. Well
Very
done.
good.
Well
Yes. Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome.
City.
Yes, sir.
I see you have your notebook on top of the table.
I do, Eric.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you have a proverb on top of the table?
I do have a proverb on top of the table. In lieu of that companion I once had.
It's charging.
It is charging quietly, safely.
Good.
Right. We are now in the country of Angola.
All right.
Remember, we were in the country of Mozambique that bordered which ocean? Indian. Now we're in Angola. And this one borders which ocean?
The other one.
Sit down.
I am glad that the two of you responded in unison, because these are sort of responses that guarantee you don't pass an exam.
It's the other ocean.
I mean, what do you want again? It's not the Indian, it's the other one.
Answering the question which nobody asked you. Okay. Capital, Luanda. Now this country,
there's also Luanda in here.
There are very many Luandas in. Again, point again, which direction do that?
You're in Luanda.
Right. We'll be telling you about the country. Serious population around 34 million. Okay?
34 million.
Yeah,
that country is huge, though.
It's a massive country. Yes, formerly a Portuguese colony. Yes, very rich, by the way. Gold, oil, things like that. Many.
Name it.
Yes, they had a huge, rich heritage of wildlife. Then they had the Civil War. Why?
Oh, yeah.
That Civil War did much damage. However, let's move the proverb, shall we? To be sure that your friend is your friend, you must go with him or her, my addition, on a journey. Travel with him or her day and night. Go with him near and far.
To be sure that your friend is your friend.
To be sure your friend is your friend. Okay?
This is a proverb.
It is a proverb. It is from Angola.
Okay.
To be sure your friend is a friend. You must go with him, my addition, or her, on a journey. Comma. Travel with him day and night, comma. Go with him or her near and far, meaning traverse the globe. Experience the unexperiencable.
In the presence of somebody else.
Be with them.
And you'll be sure that they're your friend.
You will know.
Whether they are or not.
Yes. Because at some point...
You might irritate each other.
Yes. Maybe when you are near and far, something may happen. Or maybe when you travel day, something might happen at night. Okay? And you... Okay. Have I not explained it well?
Sawa. Let's look at the newspaper headlines, shall we?
Okay.
What's on the front pages?
Okay, on the Standard. Fresh headache for teachers as schools reopen. It's today, oh. And Bring It On, Ruto dares Raila on Kamkunji rally. Can you hear? And Chebukati's team faces Masit in election tribunal. Today is the 24th, so those hearings resume today, Abby. Yes, they do. And hope and reunions in the rabbit year. Yeah.
So there will be some people who will be born in the year of the rabbit.
Yes. There's a divorce crisis. Did you know? It's on the front page of the Standard, these details. And they're talking about marriage on the rocks. 1 in every 18 households in Kenya is headed by someone who has been divorced or separated. A 16% rise in 10 years. We'll look at details of that. Ruto warning as Raila digs in over 2022 poll. Again, that rears its ugly head. We cannot run away from the question. What we're being told on the front page of The Nation was the KCSE exam stolen. Questions over high grades. Boom, 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 boom.
Contain.
On the back page of The Nation. Fears of price hikes. Shortages of goods. Omo, you guys. Man, when is the last time you
goods
were
are short?
When is the last time you were in the supermarket? You?
Yes. Saturday.
Okay. How much did you spend? I mean, you don't have to tilt it down to the shilling.
Okay. Can I be like you? I spent money.
Okay. Let's say 1,000 shillings. Let's say 1,000 shillings. Okay, CT? You don't have. I mean, I'm sure knowing you and the way you were wearing that jacket on Saturday, it was more than 1,000 shillings, right? But for think about 1,000 shillings on Saturday and 1,000 shillings a year ago.
Let me tell you something, my friend. Given the amount of money I spent, I just stopped short of asking, where are the other things
that should be
inside here so that I can be paying this amount? I didn't ask because I was sitting there and I was watching them as they were tabulating.
Yeah.
And I kept going, okay.
It's ridiculous, isn't it?
Hey?
Boss.
So there's a shortage of goods?
No, plenty.
There's goods.
But the headline says price hike and goods shortage.
Yeah, well, I'll read the story in terms of stuff that cannot be found, but there are reasons to that. But they're saying fears of price hikes. This could come, and shortage of goods could come. But the current situation is that, boss, the bulk for your buck has reduced significantly. What you buy for 1,000 shillings today compared to what you were buying it just 12 short months ago. Incomparable.
You know, I have learned to shop around the hours when we come to work. Around 5, quarter to 5. It's very quiet.
And goods are cheaper.
No. That's what I thought.
You can cry when nobody's seeing you.
Yes, but you have time to walk around and there's no one, really. So you even have time to think. You look at whatever you're looking at and you think.
You wonder, what's happening?
What's going on?
When I bought this thing last time, it was this amount. Why is it that it has increased by 50%? Literally, you're looking and saying 50% increase. God.
And I looked at an item that we used to buy in 2021. At the end of 2021, was a kg of it was 380 shillings. Right now, it is 515. Those are some of the things that we're looking at. In a year, something has risen by 35 shillings, 135 shillings. It's not funny.
Should we not then question the tabulation that we're given by our experts about our inflation? Is this not an indicator that our inflation is higher than what we're being told?
I think so, man. I think so.
Yeah, high. All right. What do you have on the front page of the Star?
On the front page of the Star, headline, bang, boom, boom, bold, black, KCE anomalies. MPs.
Somatena.
KCSE anomalies.
Voila.
What did I say the first time?
KCE.
Who knows?
No. KCSE, long time ago. KCSE anomalies, colon, MPs, comma, experts demand a probe. Inquiries by the Star lay bare secret schemes schools use for massive cheating. Yes, page 4 and 5.
Inquiries by the Star.
Inquiries by the Star. Then that corner on the right with the green background that the Star has, no clear winner. Revealed. What U.S. think tank say of Ruto and Raila August contest?
Oh, good Lord.
Is this getting even more interesting?
Okay.
U.S. think tank.
Which one?
Right.
Called what?
Yes. They say, they have a name actually.
The think tank.
Yes, they have a name. I can tell you the name. Because I actually came across the name as I was reading this story. This particular... Yeah, where's this thing?
Yeah.
City said yeah.
Yes, the think... It's called Vanguard Africa Funding.
What?
I'm reading the name.
You tell her that story.
Yes.
Okay, it's all right. Digital lenders, this is a business daily. Digital lenders protest CBK nod delay amid Google ban. They're protesting delays in getting operational licenses from the CBK amid their blockade from Google Play Store and apathy from funders that provide cash for onward lending. Now, because CBK has not registered you, why are we giving you money? And then the Google Play Store says, but you're not a licensed operator. Platform. Another headline, Delarue sheds 300 Nairobi jobs as it fights 1 billion shilling KRA judgment.
Mamma mia.
This global firm, which prints notes for Kenya through the local joint venture that's 40% owned by the government, says it'll release those workers by March. It didn't expect any banknote printing order from the CBK for at least the next 12 months due to low market demand. So therefore, kwendeni nyumbani. Tika headlines. State set sights on 2.8 trillion shilling taxes from small businesses. The government is eyeing a record 2.8 million shillings in tax from MSMEs. And this is raising the question, is President William Ruto deviating from his pro-small business campaign promise? Because he's asking them to pay tax. Higher. Kenya Power loses 2 billion shillings in tariff discount. Umesikia hiyo? Just 2 billion, not much. And then SACCOs have recovered 455 million shillings from struggling firms. Yeah, huu ni ule mwaka. 26 minutes to 7. Let's take a quick break. We take a look at the weather forecast. We will be looking at those newspaper headlines in detail shortly.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
If I look at the Premier League table, Manchester City is on top. Arsenal, number 2 in the table. Absolutely. How did Brentford get to number 3 in the Premier League table? They beat us like Burkenge.
Sugar and spice. What's your love language, French?
My love language is I want to be left alone.
What can't you compromise on?
Quality time and acts of service. Words of affirmation tutapata kanisani.
With do this
11 to 3 p.m. Monday to Friday. DJ Absolute and
Yolanda Mulwa
On 94.4 Spice FM.
After 6:30, there's a little bit of traffic that's building up in different parts of the city. It's now busy on Jogo Road, heading out towards Landis, and we're seeing some traffic on Gong Road. It's also building up as you're trying to touch on Uhuru Highway and then connect onto Haile Selassie. On the Thika Super Highway, traffic just beyond Survey. Kiambu Road is not looking too bad. Hey guys, now is the time to get onto Kiambu Road and get out, before everybody else does, because then it's just going to be the 7th circuit of hell from there. So now is the time to get onto that if you don't want to get stuck in traffic this Monday. Juja Road is also starting to build up. All these connects that are touching on Outer Ring, Juja Road, Kangunda Road, Manyanja Road, North Airport Road that then connects with Outer Ring, all that is starting to build up as well. All right, what else are we looking at? Gong Road, we saw that already. A little bit of traffic here and there in Westlands. Folks, really, if you're leaving, now is the time to do so. Tomorrow, traffic that will be on the roads is, likely to be crazy, but we'll watch out for that. Let's talk at least this morning. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Let's keep things moving this Monday.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Morning
All right.
done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
Cool. That whole divorce story is quite one to look at in terms of what's going on.
That's the headline in the nation.
It's the headline in the nation.
The nation has decided this is it.
Beyond that, the first 3 prime pages of the paper are covering that. Divorce cases spike as spying online exposes cheaters. Number of homes headed by divorcees rises to 16%. Moving on, court has blocked secretly acquired evidence against the wife in case wife gets divorce wish against an adulterous pastor. It goes on and on and on. And it's what the nation, over this 3-page expose, as it were, is calling a marriage crisis.
Okay.
There's a problem in the country. This is what they're telling us.
Okay.
The chances of a new union breaking are now even higher. Just what could be contributing to this sorry state of affairs is the question. So there was statistics that were taken from court, and we are being told that between 2013 to 2023, there was a surge in divorce cases arising from, get it, the character of the spouses. Now, divorces stood at 5,611, up from 1,194 in 2013. This is what we're looking at now in 2022. Lawyers talk about divorce and dissolution of marriages, and they're saying that the new battlefronts between ex-spouses are emerging in regard to matrimonial property, alimony, and child maintenance and custody disputes. So, professionals below the age of 50 are divorcing their spouses more than those working in informal sectors, family lawyers add, while also blaming the country's adversarial justice system. Apart from the traditional grounds for divorce, social media and the use of mobile phones is emerging as a factor in divorces because people are now using these gadgets and this technology to find out what their spouses are doing. If they find out that there's something untoward happening, the next port of call is where?
Court.
Out. I don't want again. I'm not doing. Today, courts are expediting the process of some marriages that are being dissolved a few months after filing of the divorce case. Usually it used to take a longer period of time. You'd be wrapped up in court, my divorce is still not final, blah, blah. Now, in months, you could be done and dusted and you have your divorce papers with you. Egerton Faculty of Law Egerton University Faculty of Law Dean said that social media has been a major contributor to divorce, interestingly. When couples go back home, they're too busy chatting with their friends on social media. They're not paying attention to their spouses. They need to find time for themselves, but rarely will you find them doing that. And they see this as a direct cause of the many divorces that we are seeing. Come development, come shattering. Number of homes headed by divorcees rises by 16%.
By 16%?
Yes.
Okay.
So now we're looking at, this is according to the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, 18 households in Kenya, 1 in every 18 is headed by a divorced or separated person, and we've seen this 16% rise in less than a decade. 1.3 times higher than a decade ago. It categorizes Kenyan households based on marital status, showing that 405,515 of the houses headed by divorce persons were women-headed. This means that 61.3% of households headed by divorced or separated persons are women-headed, with 38.7% headed by men. So it's painting the picture of the evolving marriage institution in Kenya, and it showed that over the past decade, divorce and separation rates have grown significantly.
So this is, they're getting data from the survey that was released by Kenya National Bureau of Statistics.
It is that same survey that we looked at the other day about, cheating spouses and blah, blah. So now looking at divorce as one of the elements that was also looked at. And they're saying that it's on the rise. It's been rising over the last 10 years. And one of the key factors is that social media is contributing to this immensely for two things. One, they're seeking a source of entertainment on social media, and then also using technology to find out what your spouse might or might not be doing. Yep.
When you read a headline of that nature, what is the headline again?
Divorce crisis.
So it's like they've moved directly to the institution, and they're saying the separation or the tilt in the union that existed is what is bringing about a crisis. But are they asking, in my opinion, other questions beyond stating this? Because if you say it's on the increase, it's a fact. It's it's something that has been noticed. It's clear. It's happening.
Yeah.
But is the why question being asked?
As per why are they divorcing?
Yes, why is it? I mean, when you say, social media has contributed, spyware has contributed, whatever else you want to say has contributed. But then, in my mind, I'm asking the question, when people plan to get married, most of them who belong to religious organizations, you go through counseling. I'm going to ask the first question. The people who counsel you, are they adequately prepared to deal with the subject of marriage in this day and age? Even as they walk you through, because there's a template that is used. Do they cover the bases properly? And this issue of divorce, is it also addressed properly? Because if there is a union, there is a likelihood it could be solved.
Yeah.
And then, when you talk about the realities that people experience in marriage, and this is something that people who've been married will tell you, how honest are these matters approached? Because if someone is going on a journey, like let's say you're going to climb a mountain, you know there's a mountain.
Yeah.
You see it. But you will get experts who will tell you in detail what you need to do, how you need to do it, at what level. That is the way you safely navigate. Are we saying that we prepare our people, and in this case our younger people, adequately for this? Yes, because marriage is more than mountain climbing.
I say no.
Yes.
People are not adequately prepared. People are not.
I'm of the same opinion.
Not sure of what they're getting into.
So it starts at that point.
Yes.
Premarital counseling.
Yes, and I think also in premarital counseling, there may be subjects that people don't really want to touch.
And even before the counseling, at the point of even dating, just understanding what it is that you're going for.
Yes.
Are people dating with the same thing in mind?
Yes. Forget the hype of the wedding ceremony.
Yeah.
Okay, forget the wedding ceremony. The marriage.
Yeah.
Meaning after the ceremony. You've had a destination wedding, you've had a destination, everything, okay? That, what happens after that? Is it adequately addressed with the reality of the times in which we live? Talk about parents being busy doing what? Forget those things. Forget those things.
It's not it. It's because there's something amiss.
Yes, there's something fundamentally. I mean, everything that we are hearing, these are consequences. These are the results of. But the real problem that ought to be addressed, in my mind, isn't being adequately addressed.
That's true. That's true. That's true. That's true. That's
Bugs Bunny's in the house.
Today, Kamukunji is going to be busy.
It's going to be lit.
It's going to be lit. Okay? It's going to be... Azimio la Umoja One Kenya leader Raila Odinga returns to the country today, straight into a political storm, kicked up by claims that there's fresh evidence to prove his election victory was stolen last year. Raila has been on a tour of South Africa and is expected to land at JKI at about noon before heading to Kamukunji, where discussions around recent revelations by a whistleblower on the conduct of the polls will feature. And the president has told him, it's okay, man, just do the thing. He claims the meeting is a decoy by Raila to demand a handshake and join the government through the back door. This country will never be hostage of blackmail, coercion, and intimidation at the expense of a few people. The end has come. Let them be satisfied for what they gained out of threats in former regimes. What? So this one goes hand in hand with that headline of yours, City. The American think tank Thingamajig. Tell us.
Yes, let me read this particular story. It's on page 2. An American think tank now says it is impossible to predict who between President William Ruto and opposition chief Raila Odinga won the August 9th polls.
Why do they need to predict the past?
Why should they predict what has already happened?
Yes, and the statement I'm about to read should shed light.
Okay.
Based on new evidence provided by a whistleblower. There's this guy called whistleblower. He's the one who's responsible for these things.
Okay.
Let's talk more about this guy called whistleblower.
Okay.
Vanguard Africa has a trove, as in bucket, trailer loads, of election data yet to be proven as accurate and valid, and provided by an anonymous whistleblower from inside IEBC shows that the poll results had discrepancies. Okay, it had discrepancies. We've got that one.
Okay.
Based on the analysis, Vanguard Africa founding director Jeffrey Smith, whether that's really his name, we don't know, but he's called Jeffrey Smith according to this article, said discrepancies are sufficient to cast doubt on the validity of the final results announced by the IEBC. While, span in the works, perhaps not material enough to change the outcome of the presidential election. The discrepancies are such that it is impossible to predict an outright winner, and sufficient to cast doubt on the validity of the final results announced by the IEBC.
So if they can't change the outcome, if what he sees, whoever Jeffrey Smith
and his people
from this whistleblower, if it cannot really determine the outcome, why is he saying it can't predict?
Well, this is what they're saying.
And why is he predicting?
I'm sorry, you can't predict something that already happened.
An event that has taken place.
You can talk about determination of the true state of things. You can now say, with the evidence that you've gathered from wherever you've gathered it, that it's then difficult for us to determine if what happened was actually the case. That you can say. But predict the past. Even Houdini would find that to be difficult.
Okay. Can I continue?
Please.
Thank you. In fact, he says, data provided by the whistleblower needed to be proven as accurate and valid, which we cannot do at this point.
Oh, get off. Sorry. Stop it.
Okay.
Can we continue?
Yeah.
All right, thank you. The reports circulating that I am the so-called whistleblower in Kenya making claims that the August 22 election was rigged are categorically false.
Hold on.
Wait a minute. So, that contradicts everything else you had said earlier. Are you still quoting the man?
Yeah, I'm reading.
Jeffrey Smith?
Yes.
The report?
I have not given my opinion here. I'm reading.
Is this a direct quote?
Yes.
Say again, the report?
The reports circulating that I am the so-called whistleblower in Kenya making claims that the August 22 elections were rigged are categorically false.
Oh, people are saying that Jeffrey
Smith, yes.
He's not the whistleblower.
He is not if there's another Jeffrey Smith, it's that one, but it's not him. It's cynical and wholly misleading. So,
okay.
So, have you understood?
Nope. What's in his out?
It's okay. Just leave him alone.
Yeah, it's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay?
Yeah. They'll be all right.
He's thinking in a tongue.
So, you'll be fine.
That's okay.
He's thinking and doing everything else in that tongue. So, let me tell you.
Tell us.
We sat exams, Abi.
Yeah.
Last year in December, we did the thing. Now, the question is, was the KCSE exam stolen? Questions over high grades, especially coming out of certain parts of the country. They've emerged, and people are asking what on God's green earth is going on. Some schools recorded a sudden rise in the number of candidates with straight A's, not A minus, not straight A's.
Okay.
So, Education Cabinet Secretary Ezekiel Machogu has refuted cheating claims. He said absolutely not. He said that the exams were not leaked to favor certain schools. So, those of you who are thinking that certain schools or regions were favored, or rather that exam cheating would have gone on to favor these certain schools, take it from the CS. He's saying that didn't happen.
Nothing like that.
He's dismissing the Nyanza bias and claims the bias claims in the KCSE grades row. So he released them, and 1,146 candidates scored an A compared to 1,138 candidates in 2021.
Repeat that again.
So there were fewer A's this time.
No, more, slightly more.
1,146.
Okay. Compared to 1,138.
Okay.
That's just 6.
8.
Sorry, that's just 8. 8 A's difference.
Okay.
2022.
No, that's massive rigging.
2021. Okay. Focus on some schools, particularly in the Nyanza region, noted a drastic increment in the number of candidates who scored top grades. For instance, Nyambaria High School, 28 candidates scored A's in 2022 compared to 4 in 2021. The lowest grade for the class was a B minus, and the school had a mean score of 10. This means all the 488 candidates will get direct entry to university. See, that's what it means. Let me give you another school. St. Paul's Gekano Boys High School, all of the 142 candidates attained the university minimum grade of C and above. The school posted a mean grade of 9.9. Some politicians took to social media to demand answers on cheating allegations. For example, Bungoma Senator Boni Khalwale, we hope the emerging allegations of cheating in the 2022 KCSE are just that, mere allegations. The collapse of the education system is the collapse of a nation. Another tweet purported to demonstrate how the agriculture test was leaked through social media platform Telegram. Some examiners also claimed the Kiswahili paper 3 and history was leaked, as most candidates had the what? The same answers. However, Machogu...
There are some examiners were saying.
Yes. However, Machogu refuted the claims. He said, absolutely not. Stop it. He insisted that the exams were not leaked in favor of certain schools in Nyanza. He said Kisii was being unfairly singled out, yet some counties had far better grades, although he said the ban on ranking discouraged the release of a comprehensive breakdown. So this is going on here, right? The many schools for who the lowest score was a B minus or a B plus, coming out of regions or areas where this has never happened in this manner before. And so eyebrows up, ears perked, and folks are asking what exactly happened. On the response, CS Machogu says, absolutely not. We have these exams were not leaked. There was no, you want to call it rigging, in favor of certain parts of Nyanza, and specifically Kisii. There have been allegations.
There's all allegations. City.
Not happening.
The Star says that they uncovered something.
That's what the Star says.
And what is this that they claim to have uncovered?
They're saying, a gentleman by the name of MacDonald Obudo is being quoted here. He says, for example, what I have seen at Starehe Boys is a very realistic trend, because in a year, they are likely to either gain or lose between 6 and 8 A grades. But a school that moves from 3 points to 9 points should tell us what miracle it is they have done, because that's not possible.
Which school is this that moved from 3 to 9?
Well, I would need to go into the details.
According to MacDonald Obudo.
According to MacDonald, it's not one. He was speaking anecdotally.
Okay, so what is this that the Star claims they have uncovered?
The KCSE results have elicited mixed reactions, with alarms of massive irregularities emerging despite the Education Ministry's assurance the marks accurately reflect performance. Experts have questioned the uncharacteristically high number of A grades from unfamiliar institutions to little-known schools trouncing established academic giants. This is not
okay.
And now the Star reporter has established a very painstaking and utterly secret plan that brought together teachers, parents, students, examiners in collusion with IT experts and rogue examination officers to aid the cheating. The reporter has talked to teachers, principals, lecturers, examiners, and union officials. In some cases, parents were asked to pay between 5,000 and 20,000 for the exams. The students were then given the questions before entering the exam room. One teacher told the Star that at their school, all non-teaching staff were sent on leave a week before the exam and their positions temporarily taken by teachers. The idea was to let the teachers take charge of the security guard duties and other tasks, so students could only be interacting with the teachers at all times.
Wait. So watchmen, cooks
go home.
were told to go home. And the teachers were cooking and manning the gates.
Did you get it? I don't get it.
Okay, and then the students were getting the paper before they enter the room. They have the paper.
How will that help you do well?
Continue.
You just get the paper before you enter the exam.
Continue.
Okay. Teachers who manage departments were called back to school and given aprons. So
Stop it, please.
So, I'm reading. You see, if I start analyzing it, you'd think I'm making this thing up. So I'm reading. This is a thorough,
Teachers who headed departments
were called back to school and given aprons.
Okay.
I'm waiting to. Okay, so an examiner would think it was a watchman talking to the candidate. Yet it was a teacher explaining the exam question.
Why would a watchman be in the classroom anyway?
Exactly.
In the exam hall?
No, at the gate.
At the gates.
Okay.
But it's actually a teacher.
Wait. So the watchman, this teacher, this one wearing an apron, is at the gate. We are assuming that this is a day school where the pupils are entering in the morning. So the teacher talks about, wait,
And you're standing at the gate with the student.
And then you enter.
This thing, if you think it's ridiculous, let me just read one more line so that you understand.
Okay.
In another school, the staff room was converted into a washroom labeled toilet. Many candidates seeking invigilators' permission to go to the toilet were actually ending up in the staff room where teachers were helping them with difficult questions.
So during the exam, you would excuse yourself?
Yes.
And go have
to this
a
place
conference
written
with
toilet.
the teacher?
This place written toilet, which is a big hall. It's a staff room.
And nobody...
And the invigilators...
is none the wiser.
So during the break, why invigilators sitting under a tree?
Invigilators are usually in the class. You have to be in the class.
Yeah, but during the break, in between the exam papers.
So you enter the staff room.
All right, but the staff room is not a toilet. So where are they sitting?
They probably changed another.
And they didn't ask. They didn't ask.
I think you understood the gist of what I was. There's
Either they're all in on this thing or this is absolute rubbish.
The reasons being given, what they are postulating and presenting as evidence, and thoroughly researched. This is not thoroughly researched.
It's not thoroughly researched, unfortunately. Yeah. Look, the truth of the matter is that however we want to look at this, there's something afoot, right? There's something afoot. Okay, because the questions, your ears are perked and you're saying, okay, so what happened and why do you see such a sharp increase? And this would be the question. Was there improvement in learning? Was there improvement in teaching in some of these institutions? Can we find that out? Apart from those answers, then it looks a bit odd. But for this thing of people wearing aprons and then
going into a classroom. Come on. We will have that conversation comprehensively at 8 o'clock. We'll be joined by two education experts who will be sitting in the room and telling us what they think and what they know from their own experience. We'll also be telling you about how you can buy a house in Kasarani, just 3 kilometers off the Thika superhighway. Keep it here. Good morning, 7 a.m.
Spice up your life.
The news at the top of the hour on Vibes Radio.
Good morning, this is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. President William Ruto has told off opposition leader Raila Odinga, who is planning a major rally in Nairobi today to advance fresh polling rigging claims. The president said he won the election fair and square, dismissing Odinga as a man out there to get a share of the government, insisting that he is focused on serving the people of Kenya who voted for him overwhelmingly.
We will not allow our country to be a hostage to threats and blackmail by a few people who are looking for their personal interest. Ati watu wachache waende kona pale, ati watupangie njama ya kututisha, ati wanatupangia sijui maandamano, ati sisi tuwache kushughulikia mahitaji ya wananchi wa Kenya, ati sisi tukuje hapo ati tushughulikie mahitaji yao. Wamezoea hiyo tabia, lakini we are telling them the end has come. There is no more. Ile mulipata kwa vitisho, sasa iwatoshe.
This as Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has told of the opposition leader Raila Odinga that the Kenya Kwanza government will not be cowed by threats and intimidation. Gachagua said that Raila is reenacting his previous theatrics that forced 3 former regimes to accommodate him in government. He also cited 2017 when Raila was defeated by Uhuru Kenyatta but eventually shook hands and warmed his way into government in what complicated Kenyatta's relationship with his then Deputy President William Ruto.
Na ndio nataka kuambia huyo mzee ya maandamano, tafadhali please enda tafuta wenye walikuwa na kuunga mkono, wachana na huyu rais wetu. What you are doing is what you have done all the years. Rais wetu nakuomba kwa niaba ya wale tunakusaidia, hii mambo ya hii mzee tuachie. Dawa ya hii mtu ni mtoto ya maumau.
And a section of members of parliament allied to President William Ruto have dismissed allegations by Odinga that the results were manipulated in favor of President William Ruto. Kiharu MP Ndindi Nyoro cited the latest outbreaks that Raila's votes were stolen in Mount Kenya were fictitious and lacked merit.
Na pia nataka niwaeleze ya kwamba wewe uite maandamano hata kesho, lakini kama maandamano ni kitu ya manufaa na kabisa unaweza kuza uchumi wa Kenya na maandamano, tukuone na jamii yako kwanza mstari wa mbele mkipeleka hiyo maandamano mbele. But I want to warn you that Kenya, there is no more person to intimidate.
This is Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition Party co-principal Martha Karua insists that opening of the Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission service is the only way to put to rest allegations that last year's presidential election results were not manipulated in favor of President William Ruto. In a series of tweets, Karua, who was the coalition's party running mate, affirmed that time is ripe for Kenyans to know what really transpired during the vote tallying period and events that led to the declaration of Ruto as the eventual winner. Karua's remarks come ahead of a major rally in Kamkunji by Raila Odinga, who is expected to address a People's Baraza consultations to discuss recent disclosures by a whistleblower on the conduct of the 2022 general election. Opposition leaders led by Mathare MP Anthony Lodge and Embakasi East MP Babu Owino reiterated that the rally will be peaceful and meant to tell Kenyans the truth on what transpired during the elections.
Hatua yetu itakuwa ni amani, hatutakuwa na watu wa kuleta fujo ama kuleta makelele. Kwa hivyo tungetaka pia police ambao watakuwa na tupatie ulinzi wa kutosha, kwa sababu hakuna mtu atakuwa na vurugu ama hakuna mtu atakuwa amepanga vurugu.
Tunatarajia kwamba askari wapeane usalama safi kutoka JKIA mpaka route yetu nzima mpaka tufike Kamkunji tumalize mahutubiano yetu kesho.
We will announce the last and the final election results, the 2022 election results at Kamkunji grounds. In 2013, we moved from the wolf in Izakasan into the hands of the fox in Chebukati. And as a result, Chebukati has made this nation suffer political oppression.
There is no reason why we can pretend or continue to pretend that we are one country.
And new details have emerged regarding the boat accident off Watamu Beach in Kilifi County, which saw a tourist glassboat MV Holiday Jabulani capsize, killing 3 passengers. The boat was carrying 28 passengers, including the captain and crew on board. According to a statement from the emergency response at Watamu Marine Park, it has been discovered that the ill-fated water vessel had taken tourists, that is 13 Kenyan residents and 15 foreigners, on a snorkeling tour. A collaborative effort from the county rescue team, KWS, and private 100 volunteers to rescue the passengers, so a total of 24 tourists saved. I'm Dennis Aseta. Good morning.
SpiceFM, Nakuru.
Traffic is starting to build up, quite some in many parts of the city. We're looking at it heavy on Mombasa Road, getting out towards the Nyeri Stadium roundabout and then through into the city, touching on Haile Selassie. All right, we're also looking at it heavy then coming off Kamkunji, and that is going to go all the way towards Gong Road, that junction. And we're also looking at it heavy coming off Jogo Road. The thicker superhighway is built up, and there it is, Kiambu Road, I told you. Half an hour makes a whole lot of difference. In and outbound traffic is quite heavy. And then also coming out of Westlands, we have some traffic there. It's going to touch on Waiaki Way and then out towards Kuna Road. Not too crazy, at least not at the moment. What's happening in Limuru, you're all right, at least for now. The northern bypass coming out of Runda and then trying to get into the city will be all right for most folks today. Mombasa Road then touching on North Airport Road out towards Outer Ring. Also some traffic here and there. We'll keep an eye on things. SpiceFM KE on Twitter.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
7 minutes after 7. Good morning and welcome to the second hour of The Situation Room on the 23rd day of 2023. Happy Monday, wherever you are locked in. We're live on SpiceFM, live on KTN Home, live on SpiceFM KE on YouTube and Facebook. The conversations continue. Are you one of those people who thinks, okay, I've got a dream of owning a home, but then you think I've got to consolidate enough money so that I can buy a home? Well, you don't have to think that way. If you're already paying rent of about 20,000 to 60,000 shillings in Nairobi, you can actually own an apartment in Kasarani, which is just 3 kilometers from the thicker superhighway. Centum Real Estate is developing a decent home for you. Plus, already started in Kasarani at 265 Elma apartments, going for as low as 2.5 million shillings. It's a gated estate. Usable rooftop for you to relax on, mini soccer pitch, tennis court, ample parking, treated water 24/7, power backup, green courtyard, and a convenience retail store. Start with a deposit of 250,000 shillings and pay the rest of the money in flexible installments, or you can also finance from your SACCO or your bank. Remember, even with your SACCO, you can go to the Kenya Mortgage Refinance Company SACCOs, loans which are about 8% or thereabout. It's real. Just text the word ELMER, ELMER, to 22365. That's ELMER to 22365, and Centum Real Estate will send you all the information that you need to know about this estate in Kasarani. We have a guest in the studio. He's the Secretary General of the East African Community, Dr. Peter Mathuki. He's here with us. We welcome him the way we welcome all our guests. He's going to hear the day's proverb. City?
Yes, the whole of this week we will be reading and talking about proverbs from the country of Angola, whose capital is?
Luanda.
No relation to Luanda Magere, just Luanda. Okay? It's amazing. They are names that you find in all manner of places, isn't it?
Yeah.
In Kenya, one of them is Makutano. And then Majengo. Everywhere.
And Maili Tisa.
Bas. And then there's Maili Saba.
Yes. Oh, Maili Nne.
It's Mile 12 and Mile 9 in Nigeria.
Yes. See?
Yeah.
Now, a bit of a mouthful, this proverb.
It's a story.
Yes.
Okay.
To be sure, your friend is your friend, comma. You must go with him or her on a journey, travel with him or her day and night, go with him or her near and far.
To be sure,
your friend is your friend.
Your friend is your friend for real.
Kuhakikisha kabisa na kuthibitisha ya kwamba
huyu kweli ni mwandani wangu.
Kabisa.
You must do what? You must?
There are many things you must do. One, embark on a journey.
Okay.
And when you go on this journey, you must travel with them. Bega kwa bega. Day and night. Far and near. Then, thereafter, you will be in a position to determine whether this person
is a friend
or
not.
Yes.
Aha. Dr. Peter Mathuki, good morning.
Good morning to you.
Welcome to the hot seat of Kenya's biggest conversation.
Thank you very much for hosting me this morning.
That proverb, when you hear it from Angola, do you relate?
Angola, that means, what comes in my mind is that Africa is one. Yeah, this comes, Africa is one. You find names all over everywhere. You find names in West Africa, similar to names in Southern Africa, to Eastern Africa. That tells you Africa is basically one. It's same.
They say if you want to know a friend, you travel with them far and wide, day and night, and by the end of that journey, you will know whether this person is indeed a friend.
Yeah.
If you think about the East African community, that proverb is speaking to it, isn't it?
Actually, you get to know a friend is a friend from where I say it. If if at the time of need is there for you, and therefore for us as East Africa, it's not about working together. It's about being one and the same thing. It's beyond friendship. It's about brotherhood, sisterhood. It's about there are things you can't choose, because the moment a friend can be somebody far and miles away, but the case of East Africa is countries coming together, created by God naturally to be neighbors, and therefore thinking we can't be friends, we need to be beyond friends, and that is brotherhood. That's a family.
Indeed.
That's why you call it a community.
Indeed. The East African Community Secretary General, what is the role of this office?
Before even you get to the role of a Secretary General of the community, you need to understand the community is a community currently of 7 partner states: Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, Burundi, South Sudan, and recently DRC. So that is a family that by the treaty establishing the East African Community. And you remember the first East African Community that collapsed in 1977, and therefore later then it came together in 1999. You remember the first Secretary General, Ambassador Mudhaura, starting it off. And now all over went round. So basically the Secretary General of the community is about trying to hold the community, is the chief principal officer of the community, is one who drives, implements visions, decisions, objectives, programs of the community. And for example, the community as it is today, structured in 4 pillars, and the first pillar being customs union. And what does customs union? It means movement of goods from one country to another without any obstacles. So that if you are having goods here in Kenya, you are producing, let's say, whatever you are producing, you take them to Tanzania duty-free, as if you are just producing them in Tanzania or vice versa. And so that is a customs union, making it easy for people to produce and move goods duty-free from one country to another. And the second pillar is the common market. And the common market is basically now movement of people, services, labor, and capital. And that's what we are saying is that, can you move freely if you're a lawyer or a journalist and work in another country within East Africa without any entrances? And therefore, that is what we call the common market. And when we are saying, do you need to use even a passport when you are traveling from one country to another? And so the East African community, now we have gone further to say, if you want to move from Kenya to Uganda, you don't need a passport, you need an ID. And that is happening. If you want to move from Kenya to Rwanda, for example, Kigali, you use your national ID. And that is now making it very easy for people, services to move. And so if you want to invest anywhere within East Africa, you should be able to do so freely, and that's the second pillar. The third pillar is monetary union, and so what we call the ultimate common currency. How can we, as we do business under the customs union, how do we facilitate people as they move from one country to another under common market? Then use common currency. Why would you want to be using different currencies if indeed you are one community? And so that is the third pillar, and that is where we are. And the fourth pillar, which is the final pillar, is ultimate political confederation. We are looking at a community where ultimately we'll have one East Africa as a country. The way we have the United States, we have one country but different states. So where can we have states of East Africa as one country? And that would be now the political confederation. So with those four pillars defines what is the main objective of the East African community. And so the role of the Secretary General is to ensure all those pillars.
So you're the driver, basically.
The driver of this. You're the center of it. You're on the seat.
You're the person to implement.
You are the person to ensure that happens.
Okay.
Yes.
So the heads of states at the summit will be discussing the ideals and the vision.
Yeah.
The assembly will be coming together with the laws that support this. But you are heading the executive.
Yes. And then you have exactly. You have got it right. At the East African community, we have 7 organs. The first organ is the heads of states. That now becomes the summit. And then it's slightly followed by the Council of Ministers, or the ministers.
Yeah.
And then we have the fourth, that of course the Secretariat is another organ. And then we have now the Assembly, and we have the East African Court of Justice. So in case there are any disputes within the framework of implementing the treaty, the East African Court of Justice is there to support. And so the assembly is to legislate. So it's a legislature, there is the judiciary by East African Court of Justice, and the executive, that is now the Secretary General. Now, Secretary General works closely with the heads of state, because that is basically the executive. He works very closely with the Council of Ministers. And therefore now I am basically the ones who is...
You're the driver of the bus. This bus has got to head to Mombasa and arrive in Mombasa.
It has to arrive and
safely,
on time.
with all passengers on board.
Yes.
Now, you see, so far, the customs union, that already is in motion.
Yes, in progress.
The common market is in motion.
Yeah.
So it's Dr. Mathuki's role to deliver the third baby, which is the monetary union.
Which is now the third, which is the monetary union.
That is a tough one. What is it? Why do we need a monetary union?
Because, you see, how the community is structured with the 4 pillars, the council union, when you are talking council union, you are talking of basically business, movement, production, and movement of goods from one country to another. Then when you are talking of common market, it's about the movement of people, services. Monetary union is now the pillar that now facilitates the two. Because if you need to do business, you need money. If you want people to move from one country to another, you need money. And so how do we make it easy for people to buy goods without a lot of entrances? And so that is now why we need a common currency. We need something that can facilitate ease of doing business. You don't have to be changing money every other time you are in Tanzania. And we did a survey at the beginning of it and said, if you live with $100 in Kenya, in the equivalent Kenya shillings, and you go to Uganda and change into Uganda shillings, go to Rwanda, go to Burundi, come to Tanzania, by the time you come back to Kenya, you have lost 40% of that money. So how do we cure that? To have a common currency, that you don't have to change anything, that will make people pay real time. I've bought my goods, I pay with the common currency of East Africa, and there are no differences or variations in the exchange rate. And so you don't even use more time, because business people is about time in exchange and so forth. And that's why the third pillar, which is a monetary union, which will lead into a common currency, is so critical that we cannot have a complete integration process without a common currency or a common union.
Dr. Mathuki, as this conversation has taken place, suggested a few years ago, and then people started to play with the idea in their minds, I am sure that the community under your leadership also thinking, okay, so what happens here? There is the question about what happens to each contributor's stand when it comes to their currency.
Yes.
When now everybody will be in a pool and use the same currency.
Yes.
And so there's been some confusion as per how that is going to happen.
Yes.
I mean, let's be honest, Kenya has been seen as the big brother economically in the region.
Correct.
So what happens to Kenya's currency if we're saying everybody then gets into the same pool? What about those countries who've been making significant strides economically, like Tanzania, when it comes to things like this? What happens whereby you see an exchange rate very different from one country to another? And are we essentially saying, all right, let's start from scratch, everybody, and let us all have the same money and then we build? What happens to economic competitiveness, which many would encourage from country to country?
And you see, when you talk of exchange rates and variations in exchange rates, that's why we are saying to avoid that, we need a common currency, because with a common currency, you don't have to be worrying about, exchange rate etc. But when we come to having that common currency, you need to put some things in place as countries first. How do we harmonize the fiscal and monetary policies? That is important. How do we ensure the central banks of other countries read from the same page? And that is the work that over the time we've been working on, to ensure that the governors of central bank of all the countries in East Africa critically sit and think together. How do we navigate to our common currency without adversely affecting any of the economies or disadvantaging any of the economies within East Africa? And that is basically what we've been cracking our minds. It's not about waking up today and say tomorrow we have a common currency. No, we must put in to consideration different, what you're saying, variations in economic situations, variations in monetary and fiscal policies of the country. So we need to get them harmonized first and start from somewhere. So who will do that? We have to set what we call the East African Monetary Institute. So that becomes now the one that sets the roadmap to ensure that we have the right expertise, we do the right thing at the right time, to ensure that our countries are not disadvantaged. You remember at some point in the United States, in Europe, there was a financial crisis. It's because of not thinking through properly on how to manage situations of common currency used by so many countries. And that is basically what we are working on carefully. And we are putting together the best of best experts in this area, so that once we have it operational, we are getting it right from the beginning.
Even as I hear you speak, the things you say are very heartwarming. I mean, it's something that any sane, clear-minded person would like to not just envision, but would like to experience. But then the reality of our countries in East Africa is, with the exception probably of Tanzania, to a large degree, a lot of our politics is dominated by identity politics. And what we are talking about here with the East African community is how you get to a position where you have communal nationalism, where everybody feels that we are East Africans, as opposed to feeling I come from this block in this country, and then I come from this block. Because when you have a leadership in every country, that thinking will dominate the policies of that country, whether you like it or not.
Correct.
To understand it, just look at what happened with the EU when the Brits decided to pull out. Again, it was a story of identity politics, really. Now, how do we sell this idea of communal nationalism with the obvious attendant benefits, without it diminishing the significance of everyone in it? Because if you talk about a country like Kenya having a dominant economy, in essence you're saying that the others are not as significant as you. The issue of significance or insignificance comes into play. I'm not saying I have a solution, I'm just asking the question, how do you get people to understand that what is being worked on here will trump and will surpass all these other issues that we have to deal with, and that this is probably the best way of moving forward and solving all these problems we keep talking about?
And indeed, one of the solutions to what you are calling nationalism and communal tribal thinking is going to a bigger picture And the bigger picture is now the East African community, and that is for sure. And I appreciate that we have a lot in common as the citizens of East Africa. If you go to the border in Namanga, we can't even differentiate between the Maasais on one side and Maasais on the other side. And so is if you go to the western part of Kenya. At some point, you remember Mudi Awori, the brother was, when he was a vice president there, the brother was a minister on the other side.
Yes.
And that is to say, basically, we were one and the same people. But when it came to a time during colonial times that some people sat somewhere in the breakfast having coffee and decided today we are going now to demarcate and partition Africa, we agreed and bought that kind of narrative. Instead of simply saying we are one and the same, driven by the same objective, the same common problem. The problems we are facing here, the same problems that people in Uganda are facing. And so is Uganda, and so is every country in East Africa. So we must appreciate we are one and the same people. But some people from elsewhere came and decided we must divide these people for their interest. It's not for our interest. If you go to Uganda, Tanzania today, they'll think you are a Chaga. Or you go to Uganda or to Rwanda or everywhere. So basically we are one and the same people. So how do we then, given this advantage of common interest, common this, drive together? And that is why we are saying the issue of making Kenya feeling is a bigger economy than other economies. Of course, the market is about free market forces of demand and supply. And so Kenya tends, these citizens of East Africa from this part of the world try possibly to drive or work in a certain manner than others. I strongly believe we come stronger in the global scene if we are stronger together. We are united. And as we speak today is Monday.
Yeah.
I have sent a mission to Somalia to admit Somalia.
All right.
Yeah. The verification mission has begun today. And that is to say that we are in a serious business of making that every citizen in eastern part of Africa will remain united. That's why we will be stronger. And that's why you command respect. You go to some global fora and you say, my economy is 500 million people. People will listen to you. But you say, my population is 10 million. My GDP is 2 billion. That's the value of one company in the United States. So why can't we pull together? And pulling together resources, using the economies of scale, ensure that now our people benefit from this. Why would you, for example, if you are producing this water, limit yourself to only a local market, Kenyan market? You should be able to say, now with the East Africa of 300 million people, with now the recent entry of DRC, if I start producing this water, I can sell it within the market of 300 million people, and you gain. And therefore, it's about now how the global order is today. It's about competition. It's about how you become competitive. It's about how you position yourself, and it becomes easy. And that's why East African community is so critical that some of the things we are doing, I wish we could do faster because we are getting late.
Sure. Now, looking at the currency, again, sticking on that and looking at the single common market, do you think, and I think it's one of the challenges that has come up, is it necessary for each country that is part of this community to at least have some sense of consolidation within their country? Because we're saying, how do you compete on a global scale if you cannot come together as a community? Now, how do you come together as a community if you then have not set at least and implemented a development agenda in your own country and make sure that things are working? And then how then do we avoid sovereignty wars from one state to another?
You see, all those sovereignty wars is about fear and fear of the unknown. If you go to the United States, drive from one state to another, you not even realize you are crossing a border. You just drive seamlessly. And there is no issue of whether this state is more resources than the other. It's about understanding they are one big country brought together with a common vision. And so as East Africans, if we decide our vision, we want to become that competitive, we want to remain relevant in the world today, We need to have, instead of now investing so much in consolidating your national development agenda, whatever you do with a bigger market in mind. Can we have a bigger consolidated regional development strategy, for example? How can we ensure, like, for example, we agree we need to have a railway network where you can, for example, live in Dar es Salaam and work in Nairobi. It is possible with a clear, good railway network. Moving from stay in Kampala in the morning, you come in Nairobi, and that is happening in that parts of the world. So instead of thinking nationalistic and how I become more superior than the other country, is how can we become stronger together? Because with a stronger, for example, infrastructure, railway network within East Africa, you sell your goods. You go to the farms in some place in central Kenya, carry your goods in your train, take them to another country in DRC, sell your goods, in the evening you come back. So the idea is now thinking bigger, regional, instead of thinking small. If you wake up today and start thinking about where you are, you'll be that small. If you wake up every single morning and want to say, I want to think global, that is where you'll go.
You become bigger.
You become bigger.
Let's take a break. 29 minutes to 8. The Honorable Dr. Peter Mutuku Mathuki is the Secretary General of the East African Community. He's here with us in the studio because you're talking about the realization of the next pillar towards the full East African integration, the monetary union. This year, Dr. Mathuki has said before, that is the year we should realize the formation of the East African Monetary Institute. So what's the journey towards that, and how do we get there? Dr. Mathuki, there's juice in front of you. It's Minute Maid, made in Kenya, to be sold in the East African region and beyond. See this? So this is produced in Kenya.
In Kenya.
Let me read. Yes. Packed by Nairobi Bottlers Limited.
Exactly.
So this one should find itself in
DRC, in Kinshasa,
in Juba, in South Sudan, in Uganda.
That is now how it should be.
Perfect. So when you now go to your office in Arusha and you want to take a break, take a break with a Minute Maid. Okay?
Yes.
Product of Kenya, but also product of East Africa.
East Africa.
Yeah.
Amazing.
It's all about getting the flavors as you need at the right time, at that moment when you need a break, and getting yourself re-energized.
I agree.
28 minutes to 8. We'll be back shortly. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room. The only way to start your day.
Sleepwalking through the afternoon. Sleepwalking through the afternoon. Sleepwalking through the afternoon.
Don't live life on repeat. Enjoy your break moments with Minute Maid Delight, a treat that awakens your senses and fills you with vitality. So fill those break moments with the indulgent sensations of Minute Maid, featuring delicious mango, tropical and apple flavors. Minute Maid, filled with life.
Cloudy conditions at 18 in Nairobi. We'll see highs of 25 and we'll see highs of 26 in a sunny Nakuru at 14. It's 10 degrees and sunny in Nyeri, highs of 25, and it'll go to highs of 25 in a sunny Eldoret at 12. It's mostly cloudy at 26 in Mombasa and cloudy as well in Malindi with highs of 31. Looking into Kisumu, it's 18 and sunny, highs of 29, and Kakamega will see highs of 29 and lows of 14. Out into Kampala, it's mostly cloudy at 21. We'll see highs of 27 and lows of 18, and it's 26 and partly sunny in Dar es Salaam with highs of 31 and lows of 26. In Johannesburg, it's sunny at 14, highs of 29, and we'll see highs of 32 in a rainy Lagos now at 27. It's 22 and clear in Kinshasa, highs of 31 down to lows of 22.
Spice up your life.
Started early this morning and we're looking at well into 7:30 and quite some traffic on both sides of Jogo Road. And Landis is really full getting into the city, joining with Haile Selassie coming in through the CBD as well from Gong Road. So that means that road will be quite packed for most parts of today. Coming out of Westlands, it's heavy yet again, and Ring Road Westlands quite something, as well as James Gishuru. That's all feeding off of Dennis Pritt at the very end right there. And we're going to have to watch out for this one. Kiambu Road is heavy. I told you, 7th Circle of Hell wasn't too far away. It's bumper to bumper 4 kilometers on Kiambu Road today. And we're also looking at it heavy coming off of Survey at the Thika Superhighway. We're in traffic hour, folks. Let's know what's going on where you are in an attempt to keep things moving this morning. Talk to us on SpiceFM KE on Twitter.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
It's 24 minutes to 8. The conversation continues. This is the Situation Room on Spice FM, KTN Home, online. In the room is Eric Latif, Nduoko, CT Muga, and our guest is the Honorable Dr. Peter Mutuku Mathuki, the Secretary General of the East African Community. We're talking about a journey towards full EAC integration. So far, Dr. Mathuki has reminded us, yes, we have already implemented the customs union, the common market. We are heading towards the monetary union, and that will begin with the formation of the East Africa Monetary Institute. Dr. Are there timelines towards realization of each of these pillars?
Yeah, correct.
What is the deadline for this one?
Yeah, like the first pillar, which is the customs union, ought to have been fully operational by, let's say, 2005, while the common market ought to be operational by 2010. And now it's 2023. So we must appreciate that time has been, of essence here. We've not been able to meet the deadlines that required when we come to achieving these things. And even now, as we speak, we ought to have had a common currency in 2023. This is 2023. We don't have a common currency yet. And that's what I'm saying. The challenge is still there because we have to move towards it.
So we are running behind schedule.
We are behind schedule.
What's the main cause of this?
It's a number of reasons. One is the issue of what people wanting competing, feeling that we compete and start thinking nationalistic, individualistic as countries, and that is somehow has delayed, and people fearing competition, saying if we do this, if we get into this, my goods or products there'll be competition. They'll not be able to compete with this kind of a market, and therefore those kind of fears have slowed down achievement of the community. And that's what I was calling, because the essence of it is to have a free market, and that's why the community is there. It's market driven. Market driven means it's free forces of demand and supply. A customer should be able to buy, for example, a product wherever they want to buy, if it is cheaper, instead of now wanting to protect. And the biggest challenge has been now protectionism. Countries trying to protect their own market and trying to say, fine, our industries need to be protected. And so imposing unnecessary duties for goods that are coming from within East Africa, which actually is against the Customs Union Act. It's against the law of the community. And that is what has slowed down our growth in the community. But if people agree to remain competitive and say, fine, let us try as a level our best to produce, if it's, for example, this product, and the customer should be able to be allowed to buy from whatever they want to buy, depending on the pricing. What does that mean? It will be for the benefit of the consumers, of the common citizens.
It's the people.
Because because they'll be able to buy from where it is cheaper. And now that's what the problem has been. Countries trying to protect import duties.
So we are moving with one leg forward, and the other leg is still tied somewhere and tethered to the back behind us. Because all these things that you're saying, you can clearly see even politically, not 100% goodwill. So we talk about, we've been moving from the customs union to the common market. Now we're hurtling down towards the monetary union. But the first two, we still have big issues. The customs union is not fully operationalized. The common market, we have issues. You can't just move labor from Kenya to Uganda, from Uganda to TZ. It's Let's speak the truth. We are not there. So why do we want to move forward into the next one if these other two have not been operationalized? Why can't we focus on operationalizing the first two fully before we start talking about money?
You know, integration is a process. It's not an event. And you're looking at even some of the barriers to trade we are just talking about non-tariff barriers. The progress has been made tremendously. We made some good progress. I remember in 2007, we have over 250 non-tariff barriers that have been resolved. And where we bring government officials and private sector together to sit on a table and see how to resolve these things. So the fact of the matter is that there have been some positive progress in trying to remove those tariff barriers. And if that tells you this commitment by the stakeholders, but I can also say political goodwill is there, and that is why they are able to allow all the stakeholders to sit down and do this. And so I think the fact of moving now to the next pillar is people-driven. And you look at the treaty of this community, it's a people-driven community. And people are the ones demanding. It's business people demanding. People are saying, why would I be carrying a US dollar from Kenya going to Tanzania? Why would I be carrying a whatever dollar from one country to another? Why can't we have our own common currency? So there's pressure by the people themselves saying that this is how we want our community run. This is what we want. Business people are demanding for it. Why can't you come out with it? So regardless of all these challenges that we are facing, either way we must move forward. And that we can't say we wait until everything is resolved. We may not achieve perfection in any of them, but we must make progress. Because as we make progress, we may find ourselves resolving some of the bigger issues that are left behind. So I think that's how it should be.
When we look at the community, the assumption is that, the treaty has been ratified by all countries who are members of the community. And so that any action moving forward comes from a common understanding that, look, we're in this thing and we're not going to have to come and go back and forth. So that's the paperwork. But is there an intrinsic understanding from where you see it, from each nation there and those who are there and then will join in the future, about what this community can actually do for the citizens of the region and then even further towards the rest of the citizens of the continent? Would you say that there's an understanding? Because for me then, that fuels these decisions and these actions that we see going forward. It fuels then common market, it fuels a single currency, it fuels trade and open markets and things like that. To know that we are in this, to know that these countries, beyond the paper that has been ratified, that there is the action then, an understanding that it actually is for the benefit of countries and persons, that everybody's swimming and thriving in the same waters.
Two things. One, I think a lot of creation awareness. Creation. People need to understand the community, and we need to create forums, even at every country, making people understand the community is working for them. For example, if, for example, you wake up now and say, I want to go to Uganda, and you use your national ID, in order to use our passport, the citizen will feel, yes, it is working for us. If, for example, we have what we call the common tourist, destination, where we are promoting the community as a single destination. If you are a tourist coming from Europe and you get a visa, for example, for Kenya, you use the same visa to go to Uganda. That is a single tourist visa, and it's already happening. Single tourist visa. These are real things that are happening. And if people know, and that's what I'm saying is about awareness. How many people know, for example, that you can use your national ID to move from Kenya to Rwanda? How many people know, for example, you with your visa, if you obtain your visa in Europe or in Americas, wherever, and coming to Kenya, you can use the same visa to travel to Tanzania or to anything. So benefits are there, but I think it becomes also a collective responsibility of all of us to create awareness, to make sure that indeed we make the citizens of East Africa aware that it is working for them and this is the status. How do we do this? We do this by through even the members of parliament at the country level. They need to know these things because they're the ones who are representing people. We need to see more programs. We need to see even at everyone, a lot of programs happening. And that is now taking the community closer to the people. Yeah. And that is what we've been trying as much as possible. If you realize for the last, we've been having the sittings of parliament in Uganda. And the other month, the sittings of parliament were in Uganda. We had the parliamentary sports or interparliamentary in Juba. The idea is to create more awareness for people to know this community is working for them and it is their thing. But if we keep silent and sit possibly in Arusha, people will never know basically what is happening. And so that's why we are saying that awareness creation is critical at a time like this, but also create for us where we listen and understand what citizens want. Because that's why we are there for them.
Indeed.
Yeah.
One often forgets just how important the lessons of history are. We look at the European Union and we marvel at how it is they seem to be working, and we forget that the thing that probably catalyzed the European Union to ensure that it got where it was a war. 2 wars to be specific, but that Second World War, there was a need by the Europeans to create something that would guarantee some lasting peace among themselves. Because the first idea of a union was actually between businessmen, as you say. Coal mining and steel institutions, that sort of like came together. But historically, this issue of coming together, we began it before even the Europeans. We started ours in 1917.
Correct.
Long before them. We even had an East African community which was functioning. It functioned.
Correct.
Until 1977. It functioned. So we've had an experience of working something out, seeing it work. We have homegrown lessons to learn from. And when I hear you saying meetings that are that are East African community based are being held in different countries, it is an excellent way of spreading the East African community message. However, I have to ask, since it's your office that has the mandate to carry out these things, what is the structure that you have in place to ensure that there is not just a continuation, but there is an upscaling of these things so that everything that we see moving forward, the East African message takes dominance, so that one doesn't think of Uganda, one thinks of East Africa. When something happens, we think East Africa. How do you package these things so that, forget the members of parliament who are in the East African community, them they're already there, our local politicians, how do we ensure that this particular conversation, because everything I've heard you say, there are very many things that are happening, there are very many things that are done. But what is equally sure, nobody knows about them.
Correct.
So how do we get this message out?
Basic things. If you go to government offices today, and I hope you have even buildings like this, if you have the national flag, you have the East African flag.
Yep.
When you are singing the national anthem, we also sing the EAC anthem, the East African anthem. And that is to say, what remains in many people is that why 2 anthems? And using that could be also one way of making every citizen understand about the East African community. And so even our own leaders, the political leaders, the members of parliament, they need to understand why the community and for what. So I think we have gone even further to create what we call regional integration committees in parliaments. Committees that are standalone, basically to deal with regional integration. And that is to ensure that maybe members of parliament understand the whole thing. Yeah, I understand what the integration is, why is it for them, how is it working for their people, etc. But also schools. If you go to some schools in Tanzania, in the morning, you'll find that every single child in the street, they understand what is their EAC anthem. They can sing it. They can do it. So I think it's about putting more energy, more pressure to ensure that people understand that the community is there, is to work for them. Remember, and you rightly said, that in the community we were there in the beginning, but it collapsed. Remember, it is not in the interest of others in the world to have a united East Africa. And therefore they will do whatever it is to ensure that we don't. And when they made us now, divided us, they went ahead and united themselves in their own ways, and they are making good progress. They have their common currency. They have one country strategic plan and everything. Here we are, not in the same page.
This is the thing, and I think that maybe is one hugely important element, that there obviously will be a challenge, and then, I mean, conspiracy theorists are, rife, who would say, look, perhaps one of the reasons why we have not seen some of these things happen is that perhaps there is an underhanded move to make sure it doesn't. Because the threat of a united East Africa, of an East African community, and then being able to trade on a global level, being able to make decisions about what happens with the resources. Just the other day, we've seen another mineral that has come out of DRC. No telling what the scramble already is to see how that can be controlled. But if there was a united East African community who was working on all of these elements as you speak of, then obviously somebody on the other side of the pond is not really happy with that. So are these not matters then that need to really be looked at to say, look, guys, we stand to benefit a great deal if we do come together as a community and actually work on these things beyond just hearsay. Say what you want about people like Gaddafi, but it seems to have an idea about what he was speaking of when he said African countries need to come together and work for themselves. This is where the resources, this is where some of the greatest minds are. Why then can we not seem to get it right? Do you think that there are those who might be working behind the scenes to make sure some of these things that we've been working on for the longest time don't come to fruition?
And I tell you that the world is a very complex place, because as you do want to do good, there are those who are pushing you back. So it's for you to understand, where do you want to go, and ensure that you don't get distracted by all these others. And for sure, the unity of Africa, leave alone East Africa, ought to have taken place. Looking at even the value, the natural resources that we have. DRC alone, the value is $24 trillion in terms of value of the resources. That is the equivalent of the economy of the
how many
US.
trillion again?
24 trillion US dollars. Yeah, the value of the minerals that exist in DRC alone. So the entire East Africa, if you're looking at all this, it could be possibly double that. What does that mean? It is bigger than some economies in the world. It's bigger than the United States. It's bigger than Europe. And now, with all this, if we develop, if we exploit fully these resources, Africa becomes the continent. And therefore, the idea is that all manner of things to make sure that, Africa does not take off. We continue now selling raw materials, to them. They use that raw material. They sell back. We sell coffee, raw material. They bring back Nescafe. Yes. 5 times costlier than this. So why can't we add value to these things within East Africa? Why would we be saying the war in Ukraine and Russia, for example, we are getting affected by the spike of prices of basic commodities, when the size of East Africa is 4.9 million square kilometers? Huge land. Why can't we make use of this and produce food so that we don't over-depend on what is coming from...
So that we affect Ukraine.
Yes. So that, precisely. So that we get enough, we become food secure, and we start actually selling that food to the rest of the world. We have huge land, 4.9 million square kilometers. A population of close to 350 million people. That's a huge market. If we produce enough food, we can even sell the same food within our own people. We don't have to depend on what is happening in the world. And that is possible if we all of us put our minds together and say, we have an opportunity here for ourselves. Why do we have to go and depend? And when you see anything you see in Europe and any part of the world, it comes from Africa. If it's raw material, these vehicles that are being produced in Japan and everywhere, the raw material is coming
from here. Speaking of the raw materials and the abundant resource that's in the DRC, let's talk about the peace process in the DRC.
Yes,
the East African community is of course working to bring in peace and restore peace in the DRC. What's the progress with that?
When the DRC became a full member last year in July, it became our responsibility and the responsibility of the leaders, the heads of states in particular, to say, we need to ensure that we restore peace in Eastern DRC. And we went further to say, we want to create two tracks to that. One is a political process, which is being led by a facilitator. A facilitator is the former president of Kenya, Uhuru Kenyatta, who is leading that, but also a military track. And before, all along, and the problem that have been DRC, people have been using a single track of taking military there and stuff like that. But now we brought in a political track to say, let us now see how we can solve these problems on the table. Bring all the rebels together and talk to them. And for those who are unable now to agree to what is it, then the military comes to give a backup to political process. So what I'm saying is that we have already started the processes of negotiating with them and talking to them to ensure that we clear some of these problems. Good progress has been made. We have had 3 conclaves meetings actually to say in Nairobi, bringing all those rebels together to discuss and understand what their problem is. Now we have going to the 4th one, possibly to be in Goma or in Bujumbura, to assess progress. So I can say there's good progress. Good progress, why? Because already some of those forces that were in some places seem to have been now moving out of those places because of now the efforts that are being done to ensure we restore peace. So this is our key objective and key responsibility. Possibly it's going to occupy a priority actually.
As those things are happening, Daktari, 2 things emerge. One, we are seeing pockets of resistance and demonstrations against the sending of foreign military troops, particularly Kenyan troops. On the other hand, we are seeing on the political front the direct accusation of an EAC member state, Rwanda, of facilitating the M23 rebels. It's all over even now. The EU is telling Rwanda, stop doing this. Even people who are outside the EAC are talking about it. How are those two affecting this process?
You see, we said earlier, and you agreed with me, that East Africa is rich in terms of minerals. And where there is that kind of huge resources, chances are that there will be a lot of external influence in so many ways. So some of these things you'll be surprised. Much as, of course, they claim and complain and accuse countries in East Africa, this could be even coming from outside, not to ensure that there's no peace. But what I am saying is that there is political commitment by our leaders. And that's why they have seen this problem to say, let us sit together as leaders in East Africa and resolve this problem ourselves.
Is Rwanda committed to peace?
There is this commitment. And that's why in all those meetings they have been coming. In all those things they've been coming, they've been attending, and they've demonstrated, and in all those things that we have agreed with them, they are fulfilled as a country as Rwanda. So I can say, if there was no political commitment, I would tell you there was no political, but it is there, and by the leaders, all of them. And what we should be careful is, as we do this, as some of those external forces say, oh, don't do this, they could be the ones on the other hand using an underhand to say, to put to fuel, to make sure that it doesn't stop. Why? Because they have interest. They have interest. They could be have interest in some of the issues, some of the resources that we have in that part of East Africa. And so what I'm saying is that if we leave this external influence out and we remain ourselves as East Africa, we have enough resources within East Africa for all of us, and to make East Africa a first world. And it is possible.
Indeed. Dr. we thank you very much for coming to visit us today and spending 1 hour with us, telling us about the East African community, the integration and the journey.
I would invite all of us to love the community and get to know each one of us as a responsibility. I invite you to continue passing this same message because you have that platform. But also most welcome to Arusha, where the community is based, and see how we can together drive this regional agenda together, because this is the future. The future of Africa, the future of East Africa is a united integration.
Asante sana. The Honorable Dr. Peter Mutuku Mathuki is the Secretary General of the East African Community. He's been our guest. He's been explaining to us what is happening with the EAC, the journey towards full integration. We expect the East Africa Monetary Institute to be operationalized in the next few months. Not years. People are saying this thing, maybe 2055, but hopefully in the next few months.
You're going to have the institute, but then after that,
the monetary union.
And then common currency.
Keep it here for more conversations. Good morning. It's 8 a.m.
Spice up your life.
Good morning, this is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua now says that the former administration plotted to execute social media strategist Dennis Itumbi for leaning towards President William Ruto, who had fallen out with his then boss Uhuru Kenyatta. Itumbi had been working at State House during the first term of Kenyatta's regime, but shifted to the Ruto camp, the then Deputy President's office, where he continued to work. Itumbi was abducted by people believed to have been police officers who tortured him and released him, leaving him with serious injuries. He was later rescued by a border ride and taken to hospital. Gachagua, who spoke at Itumbi's backyard, said the initial plan was to kill him but was dropped due to social media pressure.
Huyu kijana alikuwa amepangiwa kuuawa na amri ikatoka na Kinoti akatumana akachukuliwa akawekwa kwa gari. Akiwa pale kwa gari wakampiga, wakamtoa makucha, wakamuumiza kwa magoti, wakamfanyia mambo ya kinyama. Akiwa pale kwa gari, askari wanaulizana tumuue namna gani. Askari mmoja anasema wacha tuende pale kwa container iko hapa hili tumpigie risasi hapo akwishi. Mwingine anasema hapana, hii kijana ni mbaya sana, wacha tupeleke Abadea tutupe kwa fisi akuliwe na fisi.
Now, National Assembly Speaker Moses Wetangula has asked elected leaders from Western region to put aside their political differences and unite for the sake of the community's development. Speaking in Kakamega County, the Speaker emphasized on shunning divisive politics for the community's meaningful development, as he asked leaders from the region to respect each other and speak one political language.
And if we become our brothers and our sisters' keeper, the future will be different. On our own, kama jamii, we cannot produce a leader. But on our own, if we are not united, we shall not be attractive to others. Tukiwa united, then others will see our unity as a sign of attraction. Halafu tutakuja pamoja. Saizi, we're in government. Mimi naona wabunge wote, I lead you in government. Hata kama mlipika azimio, now you are members of parliament. And the government is only one. Shinari akileta mswada kwa bunge, hakuna mtu anasema huu mswada ni wa upinzani. Tukimaliza, it becomes an act of the Parliament of Kenya. Inakuwa sheria. And that's what we want.
The Speaker said that the Chief Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi and himself are committed to ensure that the region's political and economic respect is restored.
Mnakumbuka serikali ya Uhuru ya miaka 10, tumekuwa na waziri mungapi? Mmoja peke yake, ule Eugene Wamalwa. Sasa tuko na mawaziri 4. Musalia yuko Chief Cabinet Minister. Tuko na msichana Mutiriki hapa, Harriet Chigai, kwa ofisi ya Rais. Tuko na Ababu na Mwamu. Tuko na Suzana na Humichi. Na Papa wa Roma si yuko. Sasa tuna upungufu kweli. Ile sasa tunataka ni watu wa chini. Wakichukua watu kwa army, tunapeleka wangapi? Wakichukua walimu, tunarecruit wangapi?
Now, parents, teachers and learners are bracing for a 36-week-long basic education school calendar after the schedule returns to normalcy starting today. According to the Ministry of Education, all pre-primary, primary and secondary schools are set to open for the first term. The calendar had been disrupted by COVID-19. The Ministry of Education says from today, the basic education calendar will revert to 3 terms. A circular to senior education officials, the fee structures shall remain as it was 2 years ago in the 2-school calendar. However, in Wajir, students in Sirba School will not be reporting to school today. This after the school was converted into a treatment center for the cholera patients. 4 people died in 2 weeks after cholera outbreak, with over 100 getting admitted to various hospitals. 19 counties have reported several cases of cholera outbreak. In October last year, Health Ministry announced cholera outbreak in 6 counties and urged Kenyans to maintain high hygiene levels. Now, Defense Cabinet Secretary Ednah Duale has said government will act tough on anyone hell-bent on destabilizing the security of the country. Duale at the same time said that wananchi have a big role to play in ensuring that peace and security is realized.
Lakini kwa nini tuko na shortage ya teachers? It is because of insecurity. So as we address the shortage of teachers, ambaye ni serikali itaandika 30,000 as we address hiyo pia viongozi, mimi nataka niwaombe, nataka tushikane, tusikubali. Tunajenga barabara kutoka Lamu mpaka Isiolo Marsabit. Hiyo barabara tumeweka investment mingi ya security, lakini mnasikia kila siku what's happening. Hatuwezi kubali hiyo. We will not. So we must take security as serious, and government will make sure we protect the lives and the property of every citizen in any part of our country.
This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseta. Good morning.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
Very busy traffic in most parts of the city this morning. Wherever you look, it's coming in hot. Off Mombasa Road, going out through towards the Nyeri Stadium roundabout, you have a steady trail of traffic all the way through to the roundabout at Haile Selassie and then out towards the city and then into Westlands. If you look at Jogo Road, it's heavy there. Landis Road is bumper to bumper from the City Stadium roundabout out through towards Kamkunji at the roundabout and then leading on to Haile Selassie. It's coming in from Gong Road as well. Langata Road is busy, touching on Raila Odinga Way. We're looking at traffic coming out of South C, South B, into Nairobi West, out through towards the Nyeri Stadium. And then on Kiambu Road, in and outbound traffic is heavy. It also really heavy on the Thika Superhighway today. Let's look at Westlands. Crossing over from James Gishuru through to Waiyaki Way out towards Kuna Road. You might want to use the Red Hill Link Road, but then you're going to get to Limuru Road and it's busy all through. Ruaka, heavily busy, and it's touching on the Northern Bypass this morning. So it is that Monday morning. There's traffic everywhere you look, trying to get through it with a sane head. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Talk to us there. Let's try to keep things moving.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Welcome to the third hour of The Situation Room. Yes, this is the 23rd day of 2023. How you doing? Happy Monday. Are you thinking of owning a home? You can think no further than Kasarani. Just 3 kilometers from the Thika Superhighway. When you get to T-Mall, turn left onto Mwiki Road, 3 kilometers off there. The Centum Real Estate is putting up the Elma apartments, beautiful apartments, starting from as low as 2.5 million shillings. And what you need to do is think about how much you're paying for rent today. If you're paying any amount between 20,000 and 60,000 shillings, you can actually convert that into rent. And you own a home. So if you are paying between 20 and 60,000 shillings, think about owning a home using that. You pay 2.5 million shillings is the minimum for the houses, going upwards, and all you need is a deposit of 250,000 shillings. Pay the rest in flexible installments. Those apartments are actually already, it's not off-plan stories we're talking about. They are already under construction. The completion date is going to be sometime later this year. So you can go there and visit. And if you want to go and visit, if you want to see how many they are, if you want to see the sizes, just text the word ELMER, ELMER to 22365. That's ELMER to 22365. They'll get back to you. They'll ask you, okay, which ones are you interested in? You'll know it's Elma. Here's more information about it. You can also call them. They can organize for you to go and see, and then you can talk about how do you begin your journey towards home ownership. That's a good one, isn't it?
Very, very good.
Huu ni ule mwaka. This is that year. Usituliwe na kitu yoyote. Own a home. Think big, like Dr. Mathuki was telling us. If you think small, you remain small.
Think big.
Think big. Then you move to the bigger things. City, take us back to that country of Angola.
Angola,
Msumbiji. So last week we were in Msumbiji.
yes,
This week we're in Angola.
yes.
Okay.
To be sure that your friend is your friend, you must go with him or her on a journey, travel with him or her day and night. Go with him or her far and near.
To be sure that they are your friend,
Just to be certain.
spend a lot of time together.
Spend a lot of time and make sure you diversify that time in terms of space, in terms of nighttime, light time, in terms of geographical location, in terms of atmospheric pressure.
You will know.
In terms of what now?
Atmospheric pressure. Meaning leave no stone unturned.
Yes, completely.
That atmospheric pressure, a bit of a mouthful.
Atmospheric pressure. We had a teacher called Mr. Kiwanuka.
Yes.
He's from Uganda. He could not say atmosphere. It is the atmosphere.
There's an O somewhere.
Atmosphere.
Where it should not be.
Atmosphere. Pan. Very good chemistry teacher, but atmosphere.
Not possible.
No.
How is it written?
How is it written?
Yes.
Atmosphere.
Atmosphere.
He was putting O after the T.
Indeed.
He's a chemistry teacher. He was thinking about atoms.
Atoms.
Yes. The mole concept. The Avogadro's constant. Mr. Godfrey Kiwanuka. Now, we're going to have the conversation. The next conversation that we're going to have is with regards to the results that were just released last week, the KCSE results. There's a story left, right, and center. Let's start with that story in The Nation, and then you tell us about the story in The Star, and we'll talk about others. What is it that they're saying?
So,
what's the problem?
What's the problem?
Yeah.
Was the KCSE exam stolen? There's a question over high grades. Why is it that we see from certain parts of the country that there have been such high grades in such high numbers where we haven't historically seen such numbers before? Questions have emerged over the credibility of these exams after some schools recorded a sudden, and I think that's it, rise in the number of candidates with straight A's. But Education Cabinet Secretary Ezekiel Machogu refuted the cheating claims, insisting that the exams were not leaked to favor certain schools. Now, this is the thing. They were not leaked to favor certain schools. Many asked,
so what were
then
they
were they
leaked?
What
were they leaked?
So what were they leaked
that's
to
the reporting issue.
What were they leaked to do? If it was not to favor certain schools,
no, they were not leaked.
Why were they leaked if they were? He's dismissing those claims. He's also dismissing the Nyanza bias in this. We're looking at the numbers now, and we're saying that the numbers reported 1,146 plain A's compared to last year 1,138. There's a difference of 8. Focus is on some schools, particularly in Nyanza, that posted a drastic increment in the number of candidates who scored the top grades. For instance, in Nyambaria High School, 28 candidates scored A's in 2022 compared to 4 in 2021. The lowest grade for the class was a B-, and the school had a mean score of 10. This means that all 488 candidates will get direct entry to universities. This is from one school. At St. Paul's Gikano Boys School, all 142 candidates attained the university minimum of C plus and above. The school posted a mean grade of 9.9. Some politicians took to social media to demand answers on cheating allegations. One such was Bungoma Senator Boni Khalwale, and he said, "We hope the emerging allegations of cheating in the 2022 KCSE are just that, mere allegations. The collapse of the education system is the collapse of a nation."
You know, there's all this talk, and it's been there over the weekend, about schools in Kisii and Nyamira and how they've performed and what happened. So, for example, there was a story in the Standard yesterday talking about this school, for example, Rigo Okode Secondary School in Borabu constituency, Nyamira County. In 2021 KCSE, held between February and March 2022, the school posted a mean score of 5.728. That's a C plane. In The 2022 KCSE, conducted in December of 2022, the school posted a mean score of 9. It's a B plane. From 5.72 to 9, a B plane. Okay? All the 52 students who sat the 2022 national exam at Rigoko Day Secondary School attained a mean grade of C+ and above. That's qualifying all of them to go to university. Still in the larger Gusii region, Nyambaria Boys High School in Nyamira County, you just talked about that, with a mean score of 10.897 A-. The school had 488 candidates in the 2022 KCSE exam. 28 students scored A plane, 383 students got an A-, 76 got a B+, and 1 B plane. All of them, all 448 and 88 students in that school, Nyambaria High School, qualified for university. The lowest being a B plane in that school. So this is why people are asking, wait a minute.
Is it possible?
Hey,
to make such a jump.
Is it really possible? 488, and then you have a mean score of close to 10. Onesmus Mutio is the National Organizing Secretary of the University's Academic Staff Union. He joins us in the studio. Good morning, Onesmus. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
It's good to see you again.
Good to see you again.
You know, the last time we spoke to you was last year, and we were talking about other things, about universities funding and universities getting people to come on board. And last week we held a conversation with the CEO of the university's fund. And among the things that we talked about was if universities got more students, and universities would maybe be able to start balancing out. Now, more students have qualified for university this year. And we'll discuss that as we go on. These results, I'm sure you've seen the conversations that are happening on social media.
Sure.
What's your immediate reading of what's happening?
Well, first, we need to take note that there's a lot of improvement from schools and individuals. Students that we see did not perform very well in the primary, they are suddenly performing very good. So first, we need to congratulate the students and the schools that performed very well. However, having said that, I think then we still have some serious questions that we might need to ask ourselves. For example, now a case where a school has not been performing very well, then suddenly it is performed very well and almost everyone is going to the university. Then we might need to ask, wow, maybe the teachers have been doing some magic, which we need to benchmark maybe from the other schools. So I think the results are raising some serious questions among Kenyans, and we are still wondering if they really reflect the reality of the ability of the students.
Is it really a far cry for if a school had a mean score of 5 in a previous year, 9 months later, the next class has a mean score of 9?
Well, it might happen, but maybe the issue is it's not something that is impossible. It can, but then we need to know how did it happen. Perhaps maybe the teacher changed, the way they were handling students. There was other improvements. So it's not something that cannot happen. It can, but it rarely happens. So maybe these are things that needs further investigations.
Okay. When we say it rarely happens, if we're looking at historical projections, or if we're looking at not even projections, historical happenings, over time, have we seen the progression of improvement in such a manner? Have we seen that in Kenya before in such a manner? That's the first question. Second part of that then would be, if we do see an improvement of this manner, should it then be followed by an explanation as to how this improvement came about? Was there a new head teacher? Was there a different form of studying? Was there another, strategy for, exams that was then introduced into these institutions? So like that, have we seen that kind of improvement in the past? And then number 2, should we see that improvement? Should it be followed up by an explanation as per what happened?
Exactly, I agree. Well, I think this kind of an improvement has never been realized in our education sector. So when it happens, I think what we need is this, when you're saying that we have questions that require some answers. So everyone is asking, So what happened? And I think that is what maybe needs to be investigated. Kenyans need to know then if it genuinely happened, then what caused this to happen? How did it happen? Because to many Kenyans, it might seem to be unrealistic. It may not be so logical. But if it is true that it happened, then let us know how did it happen, so that maybe other schools can also benchmark and do the same, so that next year they'll also register such a tremendous improvement.
If you look at this one, the Nyambaria school, where all 488 students have qualified for university, with the lowest being a B in 2022. In the previous KCSE 2021, the school had a mean score of 9.3086, which is not so different from what they have scored now. They had 4 A planes, 79 A minus, 231 B plus, 130 B plane, 77 B minus, 46 C plus, 5 C plane, 4 C minus, 2 D plus, 2 D plane. You see, there's a spread. There's a proper distribution from D to D plus to C minus to C plane to C plus, and the majority of students scored a B plus, 231. This year, a majority of the students, 383, have scored an A minus, and 28 have scored an A, 76 a B plus, and 1 a B plane, and that is the lowest. Is it possible in 9 months' time for this to happen? Basically, you have a previous class where there was a proper spread of students. There were those that were getting D, and then there were those that were getting A, and the majority had the B plane. And then this other year, it's the A's that dominate.
Exactly. That is what you're saying, that, well, if the trend has been normal, like you're saying, if the average has been 9 point something, then it goes to 10, then comes back to 8 or 7, that's a normal trend.
That's a normal one.
But when it is suddenly goes far much from like 5 to 9 or 10, that appears to be an abnormal trend. And it causes some worry, and we need to ask ourselves if it is genuine or if it is not.
Is it possible? I mean, you said it's possible. Because we're looking at 100% improvement, essentially, isn't it? That if you're at 5 and then you're at 10, you're looking at double the effort that has been made in a year. So from 2021 to 2022, you have seen that basically this school outperformed itself, and we've seen a number of those. From an education point of view, one would assume that more or less the same students had been retained in the school. One could assume that. Is it possible at an individual level and at a collective level you see such a jump?
Well, if that could be genuine, then so many other things could have changed. So we need to ask, are facilities still the same? Or are they different? Are the teachers still the same who are teaching the other students? And if yes, then were they given a different, kind of students? Is it that all the best students in the country were taken to that school and that is what they performed? But if everything else is constant, then I think there's a reason to worry. If the facilities are the same, the teachers are the same, you took students with the same marks that you've been taking before, everything is the same, but now we see an unrealistic improvement, then I think there's a serious reason to worry.
What would be that reason? What is it that would have happened?
Well, now, that is why we say maybe perhaps we might need to be, those are things that need to be investigated. We need to perhaps go on the ground and find out exactly, did miracles just happen? If we're talking about the same facilities, same libraries, same classrooms, same teachers, you took students with the same marks that you've been taking. So what actually has happened? And I think that is now the question that is among so many Kenyans. And that is why now, as you're reading, then so many Kenyans are, they seem to be worried exactly what happened.
Let's say miracles did not happen.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
Let's say teachers were not changed.
Yes.
School principals did not change. School diet did not change. All right? None of that happened. So what's the other extreme? Cheating.
Of course, where answers are not provided, humanly speaking, we begin to speculate. And when we begin to speculate, the next possible speculation point will be cheating. That's what people would begin to speculate, whether true or not true. So those speculations will begin to come in the minds of the Kenyans.
From what we have seen before in cases of cheating, would it be possible that cheating happened, but the people who had access to leakage or whatever only happened to be in one region of the country, in 2 counties, not just in one school in a county, but in many schools across 2 counties? We're talking about over 100 schools.
This might appear to be suspicious, but again, as you say, this is the first time that it is happening, and we really want to ask ourselves, how can that happen? Perhaps without proper answers, we may want to see, are they also going to do the same in this year's result? Because then, as you say, those are things that we may not get some good answers, and I hope the right people give us those answers to see. Is it that maybe sometimes there could be some maybe collaborations among these schools, that they ensured that their students in their region are studied very hard? Those are things that we want to know, but again, it's still questionable.
I can see you're being very careful about some of these answers that you're giving. Look, if we're looking and we're swimming in the waters of speculation here, I mean, people have not suggested it. Over the weekend, people have been very clear and said that there has been some cheating. That it would be the only explanation as to why we saw what we have seen. There's been no and just like he's saying, if there's been no drastic change, no injection of new teachers, no new facilities, same thing, no overhaul of the libraries, no new influx of students from other parts who may have been, powerful students, then one would say the only other explanation would be that there's been some cheating involved. Would that make sense to you, very plainly?
Of course, as I said, where answers are not provided, we will always speculate. And the obvious speculation will be that there was cheating, of course, which maybe has not been proved, where maybe we may not have a good evidence for that.
Yes.
They said that, the concerned people have come to dispute the issue of cheating. But still, the happenings will make us still speculate or believe that maybe there was some cheating until they prove us otherwise.
You say that there's some cause for worry. So I see this on 2 fronts. There would be some cause for worry if actually there was cheating that took place, because, okay, what's happening to the system? And then in that case, maybe the words of Senator Boni Khalwale then would make some sense. On the other side, what would be the implication of putting students into a system? Because we know that an exam tests capability and it also tests knowledge. What would be the implication of putting students into a higher level of education that then had not authentically passed an exam from a university point of view?
Now, actually, that is where now the real worry is. I would want to sympathize with these students. If at all there was cheating and the students got marks that they did not deserve, in fact, my advice to them would be that let them not dare use those grades to select university courses, because it's going to be very tough for them. I want to warn them that if that happened, let them not expect it to be easy in the university, because then that happened, different courses will require different capabilities. For example, if a student wants to come to study a course in journalism, these students must be very good in languages. So here is a student, for example, just got a clean A, but they know that they're not very good in languages. So are they going to use those grades to apply for a course in journalism? Definitely not. So I think there's also going to be a problem whereby some of the students will be tempted to use those grades, if they are not genuine, to apply for university courses, because then this problem is going to be graduated to us in the universities. We'll find ourselves having students that are weak, It might also put some friction in the university where some lecturers might be questioned or maybe might be asked to explain or to write a report where there is mass failures in their classes. So if that is where it began, probably this year or next year, we might begin to feel the impact in the universities.
Let's take a break. It's 8:30. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room. Onesmus Mutio is the National Organizing Secretary of the University's Academic Staff Union. He's with us in the studio. It's time for us to take a break, Mwalimu. And that break is a minute break. See? When you're busy and you're planning your next lecture, you're dealing with students and they are coming there and all of them are asking all these questions. Why did you flunk me? Just take a break. Take a minute, mate. All right, you can take this one. It's a delight, tropical delight. There's a mango, or there's apple, or there's a pulpy orange. Make your choice. It's all about getting the flavor and the energy to re-energize your day. Okay, we'll be back shortly. When we come back, we'll have an extra guest joining us in the studio. Moses Kimani is an education expert. We are talking about the just released 2022 KCSE results. So much conversation taking place across the country on social media on the veracity of those results. Should we trust them? Should we not?
Three, two.
Everybody, welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation.
Heri Latifa, Muga, Madam Du, nimesalamia wote sana.
Tumepokea salamu, asante sana.
Hapa Garissa today the weather is very good, only that baridi inatupeleka mbio sana.
The baridi ni degree ngapi hapo?
Hata sijui lakini madam tunakauka sana.
If you want to follow the money trail, you've got to think like a thief to be able to catch that thief.
A slap from a friend is better than a kiss from an enemy. You remember the kiss of Judas Iscariot? Iscariot.
Yes.
Is the one that imetuweka kwa hii mashida yote na mataabu kwa sababu of that kiss. Yet the slap of Jesus Christ when he slapped those guys wenye walikuwa wanauza mboga ndani ya kanisa took them to heaven.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
It's a cloudy morning in Nairobi, highs of 25 and lows of 15 today. Sunny conditions at 17 in Nakuru, highs of 26 and lows of 12. The sun is up in Nyeri at 13, highs of 25 and lows of 12. It's 18 and mostly cloudy in Eldoret, highs of 25 and lows of 11. Out into Mombasa, it's cloudy at 27, highs of 31, and we'll see highs of 31 as well in a cloudy Malindi at 27. It's sunny at 20 in Kisumu, highs of 29 and lows of 19 and 21, and mostly sunny in Kakamega, going to highs of 29. 22 and mostly cloudy in Kampala, highs of 27, and we'll see highs of 31 in a sunny Dar es Salaam this morning at 28. It's sunny at 17 in Johannesburg, highs of 29, and it'll go to highs of 32 in a cloudy Lagos at 26. It's 22 and sunny in Kinshasa. We'll see highs of 31, back down to lows of 22.
Sugar and spice and everything nice.
Spice up your life.
We've got heavy traffic on Jogo Road this morning. It is crazy. From what we see, in and outbound traffic is quite the thing. Then we're going to look at Landis, which is even worse now, and then trying to connect with Kamkunji. A lot of traffic into the CBD this morning. A lot of movement today as schools open tomorrow. So expect that for most parts of today. Look at what's happening on Kiambu Road. Heavy traffic. It's also heavy on the other side of the Thika Superhighway inbound from the Utali Drift through towards Muthaiga Square. Heavy coming out of Westlands, crossing over to Kuna Road and then into Limuru Road, through Oyo, Kitisuru and all of that, heading out towards Gigiri and then onto Limuru Road. It's just one big connect of traffic this morning. All right, what else are we looking at? Heavy on Langata Road, also coming into Rilo Dinga Way and connecting with Gong Road. So we're looking at quite some there. As you look at North Airport Road, you'll see some going towards the Eastern Bypass, but you should be fine in no time. Let us know what's going on where you are, and then let's talk on SpiceFM KE on Twitter.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
Kenya's biggest conversation. Dr. Onesmus Mutio is the National Organizing Secretary of the University's Academic Staff Union. And we're also now joined by Moses Kimani, who's an education expert, as we continue looking at the 2022 KCSE results. Moses, good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation. Welcome to the hot seat of the Situation Room.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So we're talking about the results. And of course, you've seen what's been happening over social media, in the news over the weekend. And people have been asking the question, all right, so does this make sense? There are some schools that have had stellar improvement. A school that had maybe a mean score of 5 jumping to 8, 9. Another one with 4.5 jumping to 8.4. Other schools that are actually have been performing well. National School, for instance, just that it has increased its mean score, and this time there is no student who has C- and below. In fact, no student has below a B, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody is B into A-, into A plain and B+. What do you make of that?
Well, thank you. Again, with regards to that, I think when you see a school jumping quite a number of stairs to be at the top, I would think there's something more than what meets the eye. It's not just that this time they did, they put in a lot of work. Sometimes it's possible that there is an anomaly. And I would think that in a normal population, you would expect to have a normal curve of events. So that if you're talking about education data, then it should be normal, such that you should have students scoring on this side of the curve and others on this side of the curve. So when you have a school where maybe the lowest grade is a B, and that was not the case for the last 3, 4, 5 years, then it begs the question, what magic? Yes. So I have feelings that we may not know exactly how these exams were conducted and whether there was integrity, but rumors and talks in and around the town are saying there must be something that happened.
But nobody's coming up with something concrete.
True.
There's a story today in the Star which is saying, there's some school where head of department was recalled back to the school during exam time, and they were given an apron and they were told, you go and act as a watchman. So the watchman was sent home. So this teacher is now interacting with students at the gate when they're coming into. How does that lead to cheating? I mean, if you look at all this, have you heard anything that is concrete that says this is how cheating happened?
Good. It's very hard to get hard evidence with regards to cheating. We've been talking about cheating for quite a long time, and it's really, really hard to get that evidence because people have all manner of ways that people have devised many ways of getting through with cheating. So it's really hard to get the evidence because the kind of evidence we talk about is when someone has a written script, has a phone, and nowadays I think there are other many ways of getting through the exam without the phone, without the written scripts. So cheating takes very many shapes.
There'll be testimonial, Moses. I mean, if you're talking about over 1,000+ students who come from similar schools, some of them are day schools, sub-county and county schools, there'll be people who will say, you have to decide. There'll be a story.
Even in the absence of the testimonial, I think we are looking in the wrong place for the evidence. You're looking at the process of actually sitting for the exam and conducting it. You're hoping that is where you will find the evidence. That may be difficult, because if indeed there is collusion, people will not speak, because you will know you'll tip the apple cart. You will raise a hue and cry that you don't need. The evidence arises in what we've seen in the past when we had a Minister for Education called Matiang'i, when the year before it had been announced that there were 975 students whose examinations were actually cancelled for cheating. The year that followed, 5,000. And how this was realized was during the examinations. Because you can't lie. You can't have a situation where you have 50 students answering in the same way, in the same manner, and getting the same things wrong. That is almost irrefutable evidence. It doesn't matter what you say or do, even if you use the laws of probability or improbability, if they exist, none of those will add up. So I am saying that it isn't something that can't be proved. It can. Number two, this is as old as time. I mean, the issue about examination cheating goes back to God knows when. I remember there's an article written by Philip Ochieng around 2016 when he was saying in 1954, no, 54, it's a really long time ago, in the previous century, okay? There was talk about cheating when he himself was sitting for the equivalent of the Standard 8 exam, okay? But more importantly, in this same region that we're talking about, there was a cabinet minister who raised this same issue. And he said, look, folks, stop this business of cheating. You are going to cause our students harm. A cabinet minister who came from that same region. And he said it. So we have a history of this. It isn't something that is new. As for the evidence, it is not that difficult to gather.
It's true. I have had, and I'll probably mention a friend who mentioned to me, because he was involved in the process of marking the papers, and he could say there's evidence of collusion, but the process of also raising it up, he said, there's a lot of hue and cry that comes up with when you raise it. So sometimes you just put that blind eye and just let it go, which I think evidence could be there, but how to gather it and how to use it is where we have a problem, because there is a lot of talk around people who are actually willing to give the information and say, yeah, we got this thing, even students. But when you think about the results of you coming out, then it becomes something you don't want to do. Yeah.
One of the things that was said, this is anecdotally speaking, about schools that were private. I'm not talking about now, I'm talking about close to 20 years ago. What they would do is you look for a student in a public school, students who are doing well, you talk to the parents, and you enroll them in your school. Yep. The idea was that they will do well because they're actually good students. Yeah. It will raise the profile of your school. Yeah. Now, this, it was said, happened very, very often. Now, again, it was also spoken of over a period of time that teachers would simply ensure that there's tough rote learning. They make sure children memorize without necessarily understanding, and they would do well. And then there were also reports that once they go to secondary school, they just sort of like disappeared. Now, those who managed to get through to university, again, just disappeared. So the process of learning, it could be argued, didn't really take place. Because when you learn something, you'll understand it, and irrespective of the passage of time, you will still know what it is you learned. If you memorize it for the purpose of exam, the likelihood of it being retained is very low. So what I'm saying is, when we talk about examination cheating, the word cheating in our context, it's actually a mixed basket. Many things happening over a long period of time. And the worst thing is that it being accepted. It being seen as something that, shouldn't be talked about too loudly or questioned or shouldn't be raised because, after all. And you see, the person whose name keeps coming up is the student. And yet you ask yourself, what muscle does the student have to actually, everything we've discussed, to make it possible for them to cheat? Is it not something that an adult, someone older would do, whether it is the parents or the teachers or whoever it is? So we focus on the students, and yet, if they were culprits indeed, it cannot be the students. The students are the end product of it. But who are the people who make it possible?
Why would, it might sound like such a basic question, but why would one cheat in an exam? Why?
Of course, as my friend has said, your students have been facilitated to pass or to cheat. A deaf one sees for an exam to pass. No one goes for an exam to fail.
One would hope. Yes.
And, there's always uncertainty when you're in an exam. Even if you're subject to a very simple exam, there's always that fear of a failure, to fail, the fear to fail. So if there's an easy way that you're assured of passing, then that is the way that we're going to pursue. So if someone has facilitated you to pass, then you are easily going to take that route. But again, as he says that the real focus is on the student, then what we are doing actually is that we are destroying the future of these students.
Mm-hmm.
Because as I said, one, we are going to have a mismatch in courses in the universities where you have students in a course that they don't deserve to be there, and where they deserve to be, they are not there. And even the future, we are telling these students that the best way in life is to take shortcuts, is just to cheat. And I think we need to do better than that. Tell these students that it pays to be honest, it pays to be trusted, and it pays to do the right things.
But if we are looking at a situation of cheating, is it the students who are single-handedly involved in this process? We're looking at a supposedly airtight system, aren't we? That the exam papers, for example, are under, it's like Fort Knox, under heavy guard.
Yes.
Right? Those, we are talking about police who guard. We are talking about security agencies involved in the process of guarding those exam papers. So it is very unlikely that a student, for example, has access to papers before an exam without the aid of somebody else in that process. So are we talking about, because look, it's if we're talking about a cheating situation that has happened, I mean, it's all over the place right now. We cannot run away from then the possibility, or it's hitting us in the face, that it is not the students who are involved in it alone. For me, that's an even bigger problem.
Let me say, I am finding it hard to accept that there was cheating in the 2022 KCSE. And I'm looking back into, yes, there was a period when there was cheating, and CT, you've talked about it. In those instances where there was cheating, even the examiners, when they're marking the exams, they'd find out and they would flag it. And NEC, the National Examinations Council, would also realize that there's something here to be looked at, and they would cancel the results and say, well, first of all, we need to investigate what happened here. So we are cancelling everybody's results in this particular school, going on and forth. The people who came in to stop it, the NEC chairperson and the cabinet secretary for education. Matiang'i was a minister. Professor George Magoha was a chairperson of NEC. Okay? And he said they stopped it. And we saw a change. And in the preceding years, we did not see complaints or hear complaints of cheating. The people who are in charge of managing the preparation for the 2022 KCSE are the same people. Okay? Professor Magoha was a CS for education. The systems that he had put in place at the National Examinations Council, surely they can't have collapsed. Matiang'i was a CS for Interior until September. Well, until the new ministers, around September. So the preparation for the 2022 KCSE was still being managed by the same people. You cannot tell me that after they left office like this, it collapsed in such a calamitous way that a student somewhere in a small school in a village in Kisii suddenly now got access to leaked paper and knew how to answer it, such that they've now passed the exam.
Let me come in on that. Thank you. So a good question she asked is why cheat? So, and I would like to say this, that we have put a lot of premium on examination other than on learning, so that everybody think if I just manage to go to the next side, that is by getting an A, then I'll be doing better. And this part of the reason is, think of it, the parents whose children scored a C+ and above are going to have it easier than all the other parents. So you can imagine, it's not just the student who is thinking about moving to the next side, but even the parent is thinking about, how do I move my child to the next side? And there are so many other people who are willing to assist in the process. So what I think...
I like that. Willing to assist in the process.
Yeah, true. And that could be people from various places, could be, and I'm not pointing fingers to anyone. I'm thinking could be people from people who can actually access the exam. Could be security agencies, could be people at the NEC, it could be anyone. And there's a lot of talk around who could have leaked these exams. Like City has said, the student has no muscle to reach the exam. someone who is an adult, someone with the muscle must be able to. But you ask the question, why then would they want to do that?
Do you know how just tightly secure these exams are?
Yeah.
Okay? Those papers are sealed in such a way that you tamper, it will be clear it has been tampered with. And the opening of the exams, usually in the presence of not one person, very many people, including the head teacher. But there is a container in every constituency where these things are kept, and no one other than the DCC, the Deputy County Commissioner, has the key to it. It's not passed on to them, and they physically go every morning, physically, during the examination period, they go and they open it. And they're not alone. They're all these witnesses. So now, when you look at all those processes, when we say there's something wrong, then it means you're going to start it from that level,
Absolutely.
going downwards. Yes.
Now the question is, who has the appetite to actually be bold enough to say that there was something wrong here and we need to check it? Just like you were saying, Eric, that before when these things showed up, somebody was bold enough to say, hold on a minute, there's something that's not right here. And from all let's just even look at the natural projection that improvement would take. Would we see in 365 days an improvement of such a nature from 5 to 10? Would we? Would we be able to see that the lowest score, and I'm just asking us to be very practical here, would we be able to see that the lowest score was a B- in a school whereby that performance had not shown its head historically?
Actually, you can.
And that's what I'm saying. If that is the case, then all this hullabaloo would not be coming out, as it were.
But let me give you an example of how it could happen. You see, let's start with the intake of the students after Standard 8.
Yes.
Okay? What is the caliber of that student?
Okay.
There will be years in which the caliber, you'll find, is higher and they're motivated. And that's where you see the differences in the years. The end product that we are speaking of, you will have seen those signs in Form 2, in Form 3, and Form 4, and you can predict and say, this lot is going to do well. Because you can see it. Now, if that is absent, and you have these delightful exam results at the end,
then we have a problem.
Yeah, no, we have a massive problem.
And that's the thing. Right now, everybody is only looking at this. You do not have the history of this particular class, this cohort in the previous years. Unless you can tell me that this particular school, village school somewhere in Kisii, we can send some names. Let's say a name, Kebabe Girls, Ikonge PAG, where they have now sent about 50 students who have qualified to university, where previously only 3, 4, 5 were qualifying for university. Now, can we look at this particular cohort and their performance previously? We don't have that. We're only looking at the 50 now and are raising questions.
And more so,
should we be looking deeper?
It even sounds discriminatory, because essentially you're saying that a village school of that nature
should not
cannot defeat these giants.
It has never taken people to university.
Why are they taking university now?
No. What we should be what we should be questioning is not whether they have been able to take over the giants. It's whether, and Latif is asking a very important question, are we able to go back to look at their performance at probably Form 1, Form 2, and maybe see the journey as to how they got to move from a mean of 5 to a mean of 10. I would think, and this is from a teacher's perspective, that wouldn't happen in a year. So if then there was such a growth of data, then it should have happened incrementally. That is probably at Form 1, Form 2, Form 3.
But Mwalimu, is it not possible? So if you were taken to, you were posted as the principal to this particular school, let's use Ikonge PAG, all right? You go in there and you come in with your Form 1s.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm going to work. This is like my pilot class. The others, they've been performing this way, they've been performing the other way, and it's going to be different. But your pilot class, you've given it a lot more attention. You've even looked at how am I advancing these students from Form 1 to Form 2 to Form 3 to Form 4? How am I arranging them in streams? Everything working towards that. You have your purpose is to let them pass. Is it not possible?
I'll speak from
because the previous year, the previous class, you found them there. They're not your lot. You've decided, so these ones we're going to continue, but this will be, I'm phasing out bad performance and introducing excellent performance.
I can speak from experience that cannot happen in a year. It's not entirely impossible, but it's really hard because part of the learning is influenced by the environment the student finds. So you may come in as a new principal, you have these new cohorts, but they're coming in to interact with 3 more cohorts, Form 2, Form 3, Form 4. And part of learning is influenced by the environment. So I really doubt you can have more like a special class for 4 years that is protected from the influence of all the others, so that you're able to move from.
And there's a jump in performance.
I don't think so.
Do you think it's possible?
Well, I will agree. Maybe it might be possible, but again, if we brought in a new principal, it's not the person who is going to teach these students. So did we also bring in all new teachers? That would be the question, because him alone as the principal is not the one who is teaching the students. So perhaps we trying to scout for the best principal in the country and brought him in that school, and also brought in the best teachers in the country and also brought them to these students. So that we also, as my friend says, we also now trying to change the environment. Perhaps we isolated them from these other students. We also give them better facilities. And then we try to see perhaps then that happened. But if that did not happen, then
I'll give you an example. I'll give you a practical case study. All right? 1990. This is primary school. Okay? Around 1988, a school in Oloitoktok, Kajiado South, called Kimana Primary School, gets a new headmaster called Mr. Kamwaro. Mr. Kamwaro comes into the school and he's this disciplinarian, he wants to change things and all this and the other. And he decided students have got to start passing better from this school. Previously, yes, there would be, students would pass, go to district schools, go to provincial schools. Many of them will end up just going to day school, and many of them would drop out, even in standard 8. By the time we're getting to the year, which year am I talking about? 1990.
Yes.
Kamoro had introduced something called Mchujo, where moving from standard 6 to 2007 is difficult. So he had a crop of pupils in standard 8. And the performance of those pupils in standard 8 in 1990, all of them passed to go to district schools and above. Of course, the mean then jumped from 1989 to 1990, jumped by over 100%. So it's possible.
It is possible.
On the basis that you're going to throw out some students, which in itself is wrong. And you must also think about the entry level of these students. Like, what were their entry marks when they were coming in? It's possible to have a school where the entry marks were really high, probably 350, but because of probably the environment and lack of structures, discipline structures, maybe they haven't been performing well. So that when you bring in a new principal, then he's able to work up the structures and then have the students perform. So unless we have now the entry level, and you've just mentioned a school that's deep in the very remote place. So I really doubt whether they were a sleeping giant, in the sense that they had very good entry mark, only that they lacked certain structure.
They
lacked attention.
You don't even need to have a good entry mark.
That's what they lacked. They lacked attention.
Yes, the headmaster is very important. Don't underestimate the influence of the headmaster. But you need time. You need a cycle.
Exactly.
They may come in. Yes, they may come in with not so very good results, but give it 4 years, they could actually. But it has to be a cycle. So that's what you want to understand. Okay, when did this cycle begin?
Exactly.
See, what's being reported, it sounds like it happened magically. Maybe it didn't happen magically. Maybe it's been progressive.
Which one? This one for this one that we saw on Friday.
Yes.
Remember, 2022, if you look back 4 years, which year are we talking about?
2018.
2018. From 2016, 2018, what was happening in the education sector at that
point?
What
I think needs to happen is that if there's doubt in this thing, and that is what we're not hearing right now, what has happened in progression, and take for everything that is causing any kind of doubt, look through what happened for those elements that you're speaking of, for us to then make a determined decision. That's what needs to happen.
That's what we need to know.
That's what we need to know.
We want to continue this conversation in the next hour and open the phone line so we can hear from you. I mean, you come from areas where these schools are. All right, tell us about a school that you know of. Tell us about this performance. Tell us about the previous year's performance. Tell us if you know anything that happened in a particular school that's now done very, very well in the 2022 KCSE. Let us know. Or if you've heard anything from your own child who tells you walinipatia D lakini nani alipewa pepa mapema. Let's hear from you. We'll keep our guests for a bit longer. Good morning. It's now 9 a.m.
Good morning, this is Newswam. Dennis Aseto. Former Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission Chairman Wafula Chebukati, Commissioners Abdi Yakub Gulie and Boya Molu will today face the tribunal probing 4 dissident commissioners. Before the Justice Agri Muchalule-led tribunal, the 3 former IEBC staff will give their testimonies on the conduct of Commissioner Irene Masit, who is accused of misconduct during the 2022 elections period. The tribunal was formed to investigate 4 IEBC commissioners dubbed Cherera 4, but 3, namely Juliana Cherera, Justice Nyang'aya and Francis Wanderi, have since resigned. Commissioner Irene Masit, who is the only one yet to resign, is appearing before the tribunal, fighting off allegations of violation of the constitution and gross misconduct. Masit is also the only IEBC commissioner yet to leave office after Chebukati, Molu and Gulie's term ended. Now, Nairobi Governor Johnson Sakaja was forced to clarify the source of money that facilitated his airborne travel to Western Kenya and Nyanza regions over the weekend. Sakaja had posted images online showing him alighting a chopper when he arrived at one of the engagements scheduled in his itinerary. He was shortly put on the hot seat to explain the origins of his expenditure. This prompted was instigated by a trip who recommended that there should be a cabinet memo in place that bans the use of money from public offers to facilitate expensive transport for public officers, opening that he should have instead used a commercial flight. In a quick response, however, Governor Sakaja claimed that he paid for his travel and no cent from the public funds was injected into his flight expenses. Now, an operation on high-level tax evasion schemes by traders dealing in alcoholic products led to the confiscation of a large consignment of counterfeit alcoholic drinks at a residential property in Makongeni, Thika, Kiambu County. The operation, conducted by detectives and officials from the Kenya Revenue Authority, saw over 300 cartons containing alcoholic drinks impounded. According to a statement from the Directorate of Criminal Investigations, the cartons were destined for different stores. DCI added that they also recovered empty bottles of different brands and hundreds of liters of ethanol. The operation follows a directive from President William Ruto to tame crooked businessmen who have devised new ways of evading tax. Now, the facilitator of the East Africa Community Nairobi Forces on Peace and Security in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo has called on the newly formed advisory team to work together to assist in achieving the objectives set out by heads of state and governments in the region. Retired President Uhuru Kenyatta was speaking after he met with the technical advisory team drawn from the EAC member states. The advisory team, which held a week-long conference in Mombasa, Kenya, engaged in deliberations aimed at developing a roadmap towards enhancing the peace process of restoring long-lasting peace, security and stability in the eastern part of DRC. And Eritrean troops have left the ancient city of Aksum in Tigray but remain in 2 other towns in the war-stricken Ethiopian region, local residents said, as the United States held a pullout seen as key to a landmark peace deal. The Eritrean army had moved across the border into Tigray to support federal government forces against the region's dissident authorities in a conflict that erupted in November 2020 and has since killed untold numbers of civilians and set off a desperate humanitarian crisis. A peace deal between the government of Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed and the Tigray People's Liberation Front, signed in South Africa's capital Pretoria in November last year, silenced the guns in the north of Africa's second most populous state. Germany has said no decision has been made yet on tanks sought by Kyiv at a crucial US-led meeting on boosting military aid to Ukraine, despite an emotional plea from President Volodymyr Zelensky. German Defense Minister Boris Pistorius said Berlin was not isolated among allies in preventing the delivery of Ukraine of Western-made battle tanks. He added that the impression that there is a united coalition and that Germany is standing in the way is wrong. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky implored Western allies to speed up arms deliveries as his nation faces Russia's onslaught. Addressing the gathering at Ramstein Air Base in Germany by video link, Zelensky said partners need to bargain about different numbers of tanks, but to open that principal supply that will stop the evil now. Arsenal made a huge statement of the Premier League intent coming from behind to beat in for Manchester United 3-2 in front of a raucous Emirates crowd. Like they say, Arsenal walifanya ile kitu. I'm Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
All right, so we're looking at traffic in most parts of the city this morning. It's still heavy coming off Mombasa Road as you get towards the Nyeri Stadium roundabout, out towards Haile Selassie. Some traffic there. It's looking a little bit better on Langata Road and then connecting with Raila Odinga Way. As for the Thika Superhighway, well, not so much. Still heavy coming in from Survey. Kiambu Road looking a little bit better. But then looking on the side of Westlands, really busy on James Gishuru heading out towards Wayaki Way. And we're looking at it still heavy on Limuru Road. Into this whole United Nations village market coming out past the Aga Khan Hospital. So that continues to be busy. Let's see what it looks like in about half hour or so. I think the worst of it is over. Fingers crossed that it remains just so. This morning, let's talk on Spice FM, KE on Twitter.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room.
All right,
the only way to start your day.
9. We are on to the final hour of The Situation Room today, and we want to hear from you. 0719 012 600. We still have our guests in the studio, education experts Moses Kimani and Onesimus Mutio, who is the National Organizing Secretary of the University's Academic Staff Union. And we want to start with the day's proverb. CT?
Indeed, our proverbs for the whole of this week will be from the country of Angola, otherwise known as Angola. To be sure that your friend is your friend, you must go with him or her on a journey, travel with him or her day and night, and go with him or her near and far.
All right. Embark on a journey, day and night, near and far. Spend a lot of time with them.
Above water and underwater. Do everything.
Do everything.
Just to figure out that in these diverse circumstances, how does this person respond to the circumstances with you in it? How do they respond to you? Yes.
The person is indeed your friend.
Yes.
That will also address the headline in the nation today, which is?
Divorce crisis.
Bas. If you're friends, you'll know how to understand one another.
Those ones clearly have gone through far and wide and deep and wide, and they figured this thing is not working.
See, this is not my friend.
This thing is not working.
You're not my friend.
Go away.
I'm going to court. Okay. the conversation about whether or not there was cheating and the veracity of the 2022 KCSE. That's what we want to hear from you. So someone is telling me, so for example, giving me an example of a school, a sub-county day secondary school in Kisii County, tells me, this is a school where students wake up in the morning and decide, am I going to school today or not? And they either go to school or they don't go to school. They have one lab for all sciences, for all classrooms, okay? Form 1, Form 2, Form 3, there's a lab. Do you have physics? Go to lab. Chemistry, go to lab. One lab. In 2021, their mean score was 5.37. In 2022, their mean score is 9.11. Good improvement, isn't it? Good improvement. Is other schools, 2021 mean score 5.86, it jumps to 8.02. 2021 mean score 5.1 jumps to 9.28. But the thing is, these are schools in the same county. Mm-hmm. So we're talking about schools in 2 counties that have performed exceptionally well. Why these 2 counties? Moses.
Okay. That's a big improvement, and there must be something about it. We should be thinking about, is there a possibility that, definitely, in my deep sense, I think there was something wrong with the process. With the kind of description I've had, really, and from a teacher's perspective, I wouldn't expect that kind of improvement. And I don't want to say that it has anything to do with the region, because I think we are being moved away from the real issue. The real issue is that there is cheating, where it is happening. Whether it's happening in one region or the other, it's still cheating. And the cheating is being amplified again by the fact that the CS left us in the dark. He didn't address that question. I think he easily put it as there was no cheating. He left a lot of room for speculation. Now we are speculating that something could have happened here. And I kind of believe, yes, with that kind of evidence, that kind of improvement, something could have happened. We just need to find out what happened.
But Moses, PSs and teachers, they're not examination officers. They don't work for Kenya National Examination Council. They're given information.
Yeah.
And even when you're given the information, it's not something that you can say he has had time to verify. It's how it works now. Mm-hmm. If he had said, let me take time to understand this thing before I address the nation, that would have been caution. Yes. And he would have said, look, I hear this. I need time to be able to determine whether what I'm hearing makes sense or not.
Would you say the same of the previous ones? Because I'm trying to think, if it was the previous CS, probably he would have approached it differently.
He would have, and you see here I'm theorizing really, because I do not actually know the premise on which the CS is making this particular statement. Okay, but remember, it's tricky for him, because if your neck of the woods is being pointed at, and it is being said that it's coming from your area, and you happen to be the CS in charge of that particular docket,
and you're a politician.
Can you imagine the pressure that comes with it? I can't imagine, because I've never been in that situation, but I can only speculate that it's a great deal. What am I saying? I am saying that this becomes a difficult egg to crack for this simple reason. It's within a broader frame or a framework of a culture that has developed in this country and has been growing and has been internalized to the point where it's been normalized. The idea that so long as you are not caught and so long as you can speak loud enough, right and wrong here, it has nothing to do with the morality or the ethics around it. It's a question of how it is presented and the mass of people who can support the view. That is what makes it right. For instance, we have accepted in this country that somebody can be declared a millionaire or a billionaire, and they have no enterprise that has a value production addition to it that produces that wealth, and yet the person is wealthy, and we've accepted it can happen. Now, if you can then take that particular idea and percolate it right across the very many spheres in our country, it means it is normal now for people to accept that overnight results can actually be good when previously they were not. It is, we set in motion a process, we are now seeing it and the fruition of it at the level where our children, our students are actually manifesting it. If a child is part of that process, and if indeed it is so, what you've done, you've inculcated it, you've inducted them into it, and they have now accepted because they participated in it. Now you tell me, who is going to come out and tell you that they participated in it? When they know admitting you participated is admitting a wrong, who is going to come out to say it?
Who's going to come out and say, this is the thing, look, I think here we are hoping that there's an expectation that somebody's going to say, actually, you know what?
Yes.
There was cheating. It's not going to ever happen.
I am looking at over 1,000 teenagers, okay? Not only the candidates, but even those in the lower classes, they would know this thing happened. Somebody will speak. How do thugs sell each other out?
The thing is,
thieves who are adults who have gone to steal together and they sell each other out. Now you want to tell me just students knowing that there was
the lower class are never in school. Remember, with the examination system these
only
days,
at the time of the exam.
Yes,
exactly. And they're friends with the others.
But before the exam, exactly, they are friends with the others. These are your cousin, your brother, your siblings.
They may know that something has taken place.
Someone will
They may speak amongst themselves. But the likelihood of somebody coming to a public forum to say, actually, you know what, in our school there was one,
it's not a public forum. It's not going to be a public
People
forum.
are already talking
It'll be in
amongst
homes.
themselves. What are we
in those
hearing now
villages,
already?
you will hear somebody in a village somewhere say,
but there was. But what are we hearing already? Is that not what we're hearing? Is this stuff being made up? We're already hearing it.
No.
We're already hearing it. That people are talking amongst themselves saying, actually, I know that this happened in our school.
What are they saying?
We're already hearing.
What are they saying that they know happened?
That there was cheating.
How was it? How was
They're
it
not giving
done?
details of how it's done.
Exactly.
And
Those are speculators, rumor mongers, enemies of progress.
Oh, look at you. And we know for a fact that very unlikely for rumor to come out of nowhere. Yes. The person who coined the phrase that there's no smoke without fire knew what they were talking about.
Sometimes they'll create smoke out of a cigarette and call it a huge
fire. There was fire. That's the point.
As a teacher, sometimes students will tell you, hiki tutapata. We will get it. Wewe mwalimu bana, hiki tutapata. And I would ask them, who would put their careers at risk for you? And they'll say, And now, you will hear it from their counterparts in Form 1 and 2 telling you, si akina nani walipata. And actually, when you go to schools, you'll see a bit of laxity with studying. And the reason they're relaxed is because they know. I mean, itakuja, you know. And how they get it. Someone explained to me, whether it was true or not, I don't know. But this is how he looked at it, and he happened to have been in the center manager, deputy center manager. He said, we've been thinking. He told me that, for example, there are schools who are receiving the exams at 7, others receive them at 8. So there's a whole window of 1 hour here. But then I told him, if you happen to take a picture and send through WhatsApp, you'd be caught because there are systems around WhatsApp being able to capture all those. Yeah? Then he told me, no, these kids are bright. There is Telegram. Apparently, you can send anything through that, and no one, you know, it's not regular. There are no regulations in Telegram as to what you can send and to who, and no one will catch you. So, and they have many other ways of transferring these materials from one student to the other. So I'm told, for example, and this is another person's perspective, that there are areas like the northeastern region where it's a bit relaxed because of course the security issues and the kind of environment there is there. But if the exam leaks there, because of the technology, again, if just leaks there, then it spreads to all over within matters of seconds or like that. So,
and that's what we had in the time when Matiang'i and Professor Magoha were fighting that cheating, is because it would leak and spread. Yeah. It would leak and spread countrywide. Was it last year? Yeah, last year there were people who were arrested, some university students, and they were accused of the same. They were selling this paper through these social media platforms, and it would just spread, and someone would just go with it and say, I received it, and they could track it back. This particular time, we are talking about this alleged cheating only taking place in 2 counties. That's why I'm raising the questions. Really? So if there was cheating happening from a sub-county day secondary school in Nyamira, why did that not spread to other counties?
Let me ask the question then. So if we take this argument now and give it a breath of life and give it wings to fly a little bit, so then let's look at schools that have performed well over time.
Yes.
Are we then saying that in some of the regions where schools perform well, this same thing may happen but nobody speaks about it? Or are we saying because some schools have a record of doing well, so no cheating ever takes place?
Well, that cheating takes place, but it happens minimally.
It's contained.
Yes. Or are we therefore saying that simply because this unique thing has happened, the only explanation we can give it is that people cheated?
If you cannot understand something, you assign it to the paranormal and something else. Cheating.
Those who brought this language with the boat told us is called superstition.
Superstition.
Yes. So
cheating.
So we're actually saying then that there are other extraterrestrial beings that sat for this exam and not the students who sat for it.
My feeling is that cheating is more likely to happen in the smaller schools because attention is less. They're not in the radar, unlike the big schools where all the eyes are on them. Anything they do that looks abnormal, the voice is raised. So it's possible, City, to have a situation where the big ones have been performing or have been doing the right thing, and maybe that's their grades. Those are their grades. But for the smaller ones, when they perform with that kind of a margin, we must ask ourselves, how did that happen within such a short time? Is it possible that we were a bit relaxed with, looking at the process within those schools, whether it was the right one or not?
Actually, Moses, if you're going down memory lane, some of the so-called bigger schools, national and all that, had a huge advantage over many other schools for the longest time because many of the seasoned teachers were also not just examiners, but they also set exams. And if you're an examiner, you will know what is looked for. You will know. You will not know what the exam is, but by virtue of being an examiner, you will know exactly how to teach and train your students so that they can know how to respond. So an older, bigger school will have the entire spectrum of examinable subjects under their radar. So those students already have a huge advantage, despite the fact that the advantage they had also was in doing well in the primary school. But this is not what we're discussing here. What we're discussing is a trend that has a national perspective on it. Our ability, capability, and willingness as a people to lie and cheat and to actually do the wrong thing. That is really, in my mind, what is under the discussion here. And we're saying, have we seen this national trend rearing its head in our schools, and has it taken root in our schools so that we can expect that with every examination cycle, this will be the subject of discussion, cheating, as opposed to people doing well. We're looking at, did they or did they not cheat? Not that did they actually sit for the exam and did they pass? Is that what we're saying?
I think I'm with you up to a certain extent. I am refusing to cross over that Rubicon and say that there was cheating in 2022. Yes, I agree. We as Kenyans are a skeptical lot, and we know what we'd like to do. We'd like to cheat. So when you see students performing well, the first thing that you think of, is what you
what we do.
Yeah, what you are likely to have done, to have cheated. That necessarily doesn't mean that they cheated.
Is there another year where there was no cheating? Historically.
Is there a year where there was no cheating?
Yes.
No, every year there's an attempt at cheating. There are years where there'll be a few incidences of cheating.
Yes.
And those ones are caught, they're highlighted. There are others that pass under the radar. Okay? But is there a year where you've said these 2 counties cheated?
No. But remember...
Because this is what the country is saying today. These 2 counties cheated.
The hallmark of cheating was actually brought to the fore by the examiners. You'd hear this and this school,
yes,
this subject, these students had the results cancelled. That is how. Now, have results been cancelled in these schools?
No.
Rather, have the results been cancelled? No. Are we waiting for them to be cancelled?
There's an examiner who wrote to you anonymously on social media. What are they saying?
Okay, so here it is. Very interesting here. It's actually from a teacher. Where I supervised, invigilators brought over 10 phones and written material. The principal also kept complaining that the invigilators sat too close to the candidates. They were then they changed tact and started frequenting the toilets. More phones got confiscated by police officers on duty, but the shock was during marking. It was typical of the philosophy to let you win to greatness. They were coached on how to write answers, and in some instances, teachers made mistakes and answers were uniformly wrong. Then, they were asked to state later that there was no cheating. All the forms written to indicate cheating must have been used. They did their thing, but this was exam cheating on steroids.
Okay. So this person says that they were a supervisor. And they're saying, as a supervisor, they observed invigilators coming with phones. And head teachers were also complaining. Now, are invigilators come from the same school?
They shouldn't. No, actually, they are not allowed to.
So the supervisor and invigilator are not from that school.
I think what I heard is that the children are the ones with the phones, isn't it?
But the invigilators were sitting too close to the candidates.
To the candidates.
To bring this feeling.
What kind of collusion would that be? Teachers from different schools have come to this school and they're sitting.
No, there's logic to it.
Tell me.
You know the school you're going to invigilate in well ahead of the exams.
Okay.
So, if I am to speak Kenyanese, you can be spoken to.
So, mmepangwa nyinyi wote ma invigilators.
I actually think what is coming out is that the principal was complaining because he was feeling that the invigilators are sitting too close so that the students are not able to do the thing.
Okay.
You get? So the supervisor sees so many phones from the students, confiscates them, and then tells the principal, your children are having all this and all this. And then the principal starts complaining, but you people are also sitting too close to my
intimidating
students. You're intimidating them. Allow them to do their thing. Maybe it's something they had planned. I mean, I don't want to say all manner of things. So, and this is what I said when I came in. I said, it is possible that there was a lot of cheating, possible. But then, to raise it, why didn't she raise it? Or whoever that person was? Because you would bring a lot of issues around it, And you'll have to bring in the center manager, the sub-county directors on it, the security agencies on it, and the media on it. It will be a whole lot of issues. And some people just say, okay, mimi nilikuja hapa kufanya supervision, I do my job, I go. So because you don't want to raise all these stories around the exam cheating. And again, I think the message says that they were told to say there was no cheating. What City is alluding to, that we have actually accepted that this is the way to go. Even at the top there, of course, to avoid accountability, they tell you, guys, we need to keep ourselves safe. So this thing should not come out that we have witnessed
any cheating taking place.
And that's why I had a problem with how the CS probably addressed this, because I would expect him to really stand strong and say, if there was cheating, there was cheating. so that we start from there. We address it. But if you just take what you're told there was no cheating, and then you just take it, and then this is a person who was actually involved in the process saying, no, there was. I feel he's left us in the dark, and now we have all these speculation and thinking.
We're filling the vacuum.
Yes.
If this is
Let's
true,
take a break, City, and then we continue. We'll take the calls as well. 0719-012-600. Do you believe the veracity of the just released KCSE exam results? Do you believe the veracity of the just released exams results? Our guests in the studio, Dr. Onesmus Mutio is the National Organizing Secretary of the University's Academic Staff Union, and Moses Kimani is an education sector expert. These two are teachers. They've been there. Well, CT is also a teacher. He's been there. We have all been candidates. We've been there. I've not cheated. I don't know about you guys. Let's take a Minute Maid break. And Minute Maid is all about... what was that word for city?
Visit what?
Vituso.
It is about Vituso. What is Vituso, City? A little complication.
No, it's not that. I'm trying to find a word that will be easy to understand.
You're trying to...
Yes. When I come across the word, I'll let you know.
Okay.
Yes.
But Minute Maid gives you Vituso.
Man, it does wonderful things for you.
0719-012-600 after the break. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
The man who looks at a beautiful girl and doesn't talk to her will end up serving lunch at her wedding.
Aye, City, do like that.
My father has killed a mouse. Will he fail to kill a man?
Ameua panya.
Small mammal, big mammal.
Mtu atamshinda. What are they saying?
How are we comparison? I mean, you kill a mouse.
What are they saying?
What they're saying is, my father has killed a mouse. Will he fail to kill a man? Name, surprise. Someone's name.
The name surprised you?
No, the name is surprise.
No, what am I saying? I'm from Nigeria, man. I met somebody called I Believe. So
See?
Your name is I Believe? Yes, my name is I Believe. But that's the short form. I said, excuse me? I said, yes, my name is I Believe. So what's the full name? I believe in the goodness of
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Yolanda Mulwa, DJ Absolute. When the gang is together, got the sugar, got the spice.
Yorada.
Yes.
I have missed you like hot hamburgers. Yeah?
Like hot hamburgers.
You know, bad boys give more money than you can count.
Hey, bad boys give more money than you can count. If it's fun, it's funky, it's fresh, you're definitely going to catch it here. I don't know what you do every day from 11 a.m. to 3 o'clock, but if I were you, I'd tune in to
Sugar and Spice only on 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
So if you say it's on, then it's on.
Yeah. Okay, cloudy conditions in Nairobi. We'll see highs of 25 and lows of 15. It's sunny at 19 in Nakuru, highs of 26 and lows of 13. Cloudy in Nyeri at 14, highs of 25. And it'll also go to highs of 25 in a mostly sunny Eldoret at 17. It's partly sunny at 28 in Mombasa. We'll see highs of 31 and highs of 31 as well in a partly sunny Malindi. It's 24 and sunny in Kisumu, highs of 29 and lows of 19. While Kakamega is sunny at 24, it'll go to highs of 29 and lows of 14. Looking into Kampala, sunny at 23, highs of 27 and highs of 31 in a sunny Dar es Salaam at 28. It's 19 and sunny in Joburg. It's 26 and hazy in Lagos. And we'll see highs of 31 in a mostly sunny Kinshasa at 26. It's -4 and sunny out into Beijing Monday evening. We'll see highs of just that and lows of -16. 1 degree and a snowstorm in Paris, highs of 4. And we'll also see highs of 4 in a cloudy London at -3. Rain showers at 4 degrees in New York. Coming into Monday, we'll see highs of 5 and lows of 1.
Spice up your life.
The clock says we're getting out of traffic hour, but we still see some drama in the city. Coming off Raila Odinga Way, that traffic seems to be increasing and reducing as the hours go by. On Uhuru Highway, heading out past the Nyayo Stadium roundabout, slows down a little bit. And then into the city, coming in from the Thika Superhighway, much better than it was earlier. And Kiambu Road now is manageable, at least. It's getting to manageable state as well on Limuru Road. Keep an eye out for that. SpiceFM KE through the morning, talk to us and keep things moving through this Monday.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
The conversation 0719-012-600. We want to hear from you. Do you believe the veracity of the just released 2022 KCSE results? John in Nairobi, good morning.
Morning. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. How are you?
Fine, thank you. Now, I don't want to say I believe or I don't believe. But I just went and I tried to dig some information comparing 2021 and 2022. In 2021, 1938. 2022, 1146. So there was an increase of only 8. A minus, 2021, 5973, 2022, 5407, a decrease of 566. B plus, 13463, 2021, 2022, 15687. So there's an increase of 2247. I just did up to there. So the only thing that I'm seeing, there's you can say there's a very big difference in B plus. So if you compare those 2 years, 2021 and 2022, if you are saying that there was leakage in 2022, so even 2021 there was leakage. Maybe the only difference now, what we are saying, is that the leakage is only in 2 counties.
That seems to be the main issue that people are raising. I mean, if you look at the way you've just given that an analysis, if you look at the number of A's, the A minuses, the B's and all, then is it only these 2 counties?
Yeah, and actually, if you look at the numbers, then if people are saying 2022 there was leakage, even 2021 there was leakage. Because the difference is not much. If you critically look at the numbers, the difference is not much. Is that the same? Hello?
We can hear you.
Yes, if you see, like that time before the Magohas and the Matiangis, A's had moved from, I remember in 2015, I think the A's were 2,000 and something, and then the following year after the reforms, they dropped down to about 100 or something. Then you can see that. But here, the linear is the same. I mean, the curve is the same. You cannot say there's a much difference between this year and the previous year. That's the way I'm looking at it.
All right, John. Thank you. Let's hear from others. Elijah, good morning.
Good morning. How are you guys doing?
We're very well, thank you.
Yes. Now, I think cheating has always been there. When I was in school, I had a classmate whose sister was in one of these well-performing schools. And they were sitting the exam the same year. And one of the papers came word for word. So you get a guy who's getting a D in math and an A.
Word for word in what?
Like the literal paper. There are always papers flying about during exam season. Some of them are true, some of them are not. So you decide, are you going to study all of them? Are you going to just put all your eggs in one basket? The guy did. So the papers that were fake, he didn't perform well. The ones that were legit, he got straight A's. So the issue here, I think, is not whether or not cheating is there. It is how far has it gone? And the question is, will you want your house built by an engineer who got these A's? will you want your parents taken care of by a doctor who got these A's? Because if you will, then we carry on. But if
you're saying,
we need
Elijah,
to figure it
if
out.
you're saying that cheating has always been there, then that means that we should look at all of you doctors and all lawyers and all engineers and start questioning, who you?
Well, there are mechanisms to sift them out. And you'll hear of certain courses where there's a 90% failure rate in their first year. There's someone who wrote an interesting op-ed in the papers asking, should universities have entrance exams? Because if you can no longer trust the high school exit exam, maybe you need an entrance exam for the university.
There'll be leakage there as well.
Of course. And then we now move to, do jobs need entrance exam?
Okay, Elijah. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Yegon.
Yes, good morning, Eric, City, Ndu, and our guest.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, I'm following the show from YouTube from Wajir. And personally, I come from Nandi. Whereby the exam performance was fair. That is, a lot of students passed. So the issue here is not about exam leakage, because I heard you, Eric, saying that those outgoing CSS and BS had good mechanisms for exam leakage. So actually what's happening on the ground is that the invigilators, supervisors, and even the security guards are compromised so that they can allow the discussion of exam papers in the exam room. We have schools whereby teachers photocopy the answers, distribute them to the class, to the students, and they end up passing. So that you cannot blame those who are marking exams or the NEC officials. It's about the management down there. And don't forget that these candidates are the candidates who were in this period of COVID-19 pandemic. So if you had the fair marking plus the answers given by the teachers and the discuss, then you get straight A's.
So you believe the exams are legit? The results?
The results are legit. Okay. But the owner of the results is not legit.
NEC is not legit. Go on. Alfred in Mombasa.
Yes, good morning, SpiceFM.
Good morning.
Where is CT? I can't hear him.
Good morning, sir. How are you today?
I'm fine. I want to contribute about this issue.
Yes,
go ahead.
I'm so grateful. I'm hearing what the discussion is, the direction that the discussion is taking. But I want to take you aback. You remember in 2015 there was a mass leakage of exams.
Yep.
When the cabinet minister back then was being given a paper today and then was told by media, tomorrow you will see this paper, the genuine one, one-on-one. Then after the day comes and the paper comes out, the media will come with the paper and the other one that they showed him, and they prove to him from number 1 up to 50, the paper is exactly copyright. And he used to say, so far no one has proved to me that there is leakage. And that is, I'm speaking, we are Kenyans. Sisi tuko na kaujinga kengine ambako just close our eyes and we don't speak the truth. Let me tell you what happened. I can say there was exams cheating around the country.
In this particular one, the 2022 KCSE?
Yes.
So it was across the country?
Yes, and I will prove that. I will prove that. There is one contributor who has talked about looking at the national tally, and he's talking about an increase of 8.
Yep.
if you want to interrogate the examination, whether it was there was an anomaly, you will also be a very good researcher and one with an okay. Ask yourself, do you know how the cost students fared?
Tell us.
And other counties in the country. Then go back again and look at the region, these two regions, Nyeri and Kisii. I can say for sure, students there, they never cheated. And I want you to get me well.
So there was cheating across the country, but not in Nyeri and Kisii.
It was there just like the others in the country, but now I'm showing you the point.
Okay.
It is not cheating that took place with those results. It is only one thing that happened. And that what happened is equalization, harmonization, and adjusting of results.
Okay.
Because you being a Kenyan, you cannot tell me a region is behaving in 1 year, they are behaving in a particular direction. Then it happens that the cabinet minister comes from there. And somebody talked about Matiang'i invested and blah, blah. If Matiang'i was here in the government today, he would denounce those results. If Magoha was here, he would denounce those results. And one thing that we should always understand as Kenyans, let us be sincere.
Okay.
Because you remember before a week into the exam, media exposed some cheatings in those areas.
Which areas?
It was those Kisii and Nyeri. If I can memorize you a bit, you remember those students who are caught in the toilet with two strangers writing mathematics paper. And then,
but remind us, please.
Just vouch later. It is there in the media. They were taken to the principal's office. They were arrested. They were taken to the principal's office. Then all of a sudden, these two strangers disappear. Then it was said that the principal let them go, and the student was allowed to go back to continue with exams. Is that actually what is supposed to happen?
All right, Alfred, we hear you. Thank you for your contribution.
Thank you.
Asante. Martin in Mombasa.
Yeah, hi, SpiceFM.
Good morning.
Morning. Mine is a quick one, and I think what is happening here, we have created a perfect storm whereby there is the advent of digital technology. Information is at the fingertips of everyone these days. And then we've gone ahead and said that the final exam is what determines one's destiny. So those two things, a student can get information at any time. So the long and short of it is cheating will continue. So the only solution is we remove the final examination and maybe we expedite the CBC and also improve the NIMI system whereby you track the progression of a student.
Okay.
That way, by the time they are reaching their final year, you already know this is a student who is good in arts, this is a student who is good in science. So you don't even need the final examination. But until we get there, cheating will always be there. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. Dr. Maloba in Nairobi.
Thank you very much, Eric. Mutio, how are you? That is my colleague.
Good, Dr. Maloba.
Yes. Now, there are three things I want to point out. Number one, we are now living in a very global village, and we have to ask ourselves a very simple thing. Is the air that we are giving here in Kenya the same air that can be expected elsewhere? And if we have any doubt that there is a discrepancy in the same, then we should stop. That is number one. Number two, I have always argued that universities should not depend on outside bodies to give them advice on who comes into the university. If NEC is actually compromised, that means eventually the kind of products who are getting received at the university and getting allocation for specific courses is already a messed up idea. And it is always going to be seen the moment these students step in first year. I see this many times over. As an A student, and then is incapable of even writing a full text, which actually gives doubt that we are actually getting the kind of people whose grades are actually given authentically.
So, Dr. Maloba, are you advocating for a pre-entry exam?
Obviously, yes, because Harvard has, Yale has, all the Ivy League universities have. Why are we not doing it? Why are we depending on our own students? Do you know the teachers who are actually in high school are our students? So why are we depending on our students to actually get the products from the exit exam from secondary school? All right, let me make the third point then. There is the question of the skill set. We have to ask ourselves, when we are doing this exam, what are we looking for? Are we testing a skill? Or are we just interested in a ranking system? If we are giving out a skill set, that is where now the employers are going to come in and say, this skill set is absent. And that is why people are doubting. Are you coming out of the university with a medical degree and you don't have the skill set? You are only interested in being ranked. And we are actually compromising ourselves. I think what we, for me, the solution would be simple. Let us stop first these fallacious rankings, especially when we go to counties, like this county led, this other county. What nonsense is that?
Well,
is there a county that takes an exam?
That is not, Dr. Maloba, in fairness, that's not done by the government. That's done by the rest of us. The media,
of course,
the society, the community.
Who actually gets this idea? The moment you start saying a school has done well, what are you doing? But you see, we should stop that.
Okay.
And then number two, let us only have this NEC being like the middleman, a filter. The universities should take over. I would want to actually test. If you come and say you want to do this course, I want to give you an entry exam. And then lastly, we must make sure this aid that we keep giving, if it is not benchmarked with an A elsewhere, forget it. But thank you very much.
Dr. Maloba, I have to ask you one question. If we are going to take your advice as has been given, then should we also stop ranking institutions of higher learnings like the universities? Because they're also ranked.
Yes, but that is through ebometrics, and it is through quantifiable attributes. When we talk about things like publications, all right? When we talk about someone has cut a niche, when we talk about the employability, these are quantifiable attributes which you can actually be used to examine whether this institution is at this level or not. So that ranking per se is actually supposed to be some sort of allure for even the employers. There's a reason why even people come from Harvard and say, I'm Harvard trained. You see that? There is some sort of, privilege about having been trained somewhere, because you know very well that the kind of skill set that would have been inculcated in you is unique. There's a reason even why there are some people who would say, I don't want to go to this sort of university. You remember our governor fighting about some other university here in Uganda who no one knows about. Yeah? Now, you see, there's a reason why even he left the University of Nairobi. I don't want to go political about this, but ranking should actually be about quantifiable attributes, which we can actually be able to use.
You know, Daktari, I'm stuck on this because even before you became a Daktari and you became a Don, you went through a school system, and I'm certain that these schools were ranked, and whatever process was used was quantifiable.
It doesn't mean that the history I have gone through, there have not been mistakes which were made. I'm not acknowledging that, no. I'm saying, going into the future, how can we then be able to better ourselves? Yes, I was also ranked even at the university because at the end of the day, I was a scholarship student right from my undergraduate all the way to postdoctoral. And you see, the thing is this ranking was actually supposed to be helpful, but it doesn't mean that there were not mistakes which were made.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you, Dr.
I would really have wished that we engaged this a little further, but thank you very much.
We'll invite you to the studio for that. Thank you, Dr. Maloba.
Asante.
Charles in Nairobi. Sorry, you've been on hold for a while. Good morning.
Yes. Morning.
Yeah.
Hello. Morning to Eric Ndu and City.
Good morning.
Thank you. I'm just actually zeroing in on basically the pool from which the final selection of questions come from. I guess there is 150 or maybe 200 questions from which any 50 are selected for the final paper. And I guess it is not printed, so I think it is existing somewhere as a soft copy, and that is what maybe can circulate to a school friendly to the exam, to the group that is selecting the final exam. If a guy called, let's say a guy called Bernard, is in the team of selecting the final questions, and it just circulates to me, who is an admin in a particular school, the final, maybe the pool of 200 questions in chemistry, and another pool of 200 questions in history, and another in geography, and another one in mathematics, I take it to the class that is doing exam that particular time, and I tell them, focus your students on these ones, make them be very, tactful on this. I mean, stretch them to whichever extent so that they are able to handle these questions from any dimensions. That is maybe giving myself 3 months to the final day of the exam, or when they are starting the exam. Can I not come out with this crazy age that people are so calling crazy? So I think that is what maybe one way. And is it calling that kind of thing cheating? It has to be cheating, of course. Maybe City can give us the leeway. Which, how does it come? I mean, what is the cap period? Is it something that exists soft copy somewhere? Because it can be sent to somebody who is friendly to these people, and you just saved. From
that point on.
Yes.
Thank you, Charles.
But the students are somehow coached in a way. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Charles. Moses,
yes.
As you talked about the experience that you had with students telling you, hiki tutapata, would it be within a month to the exam, a week to the exam, 2 weeks, a month, 2 months, final term?
It's usually 1 month to the exam, and that is when the anxiety is very high. And you look at them and you ask them, are you really ready? They're like, but I think some just say they're also not very sure how to get there. But somehow, because of the historical aspects of it, some other class got something, the other class got something, so they think even this time we should be able to get something. I like what I think the last caller has said. There are a pool of questions. That one I'm not aware. And if then there's a pool of questions of 200 questions, if that's the exact number, then it's very easy to have the students revise for the 200 questions. If you get them, let's say 2 months earlier, even 1 month earlier, you can have your students study 200 questions in a month and still be able to do very well.
Mucho, is it possible?
Well, I think 1 month is enough time for a teacher to take students through 200 questions, surely. Even 1 week is possible. But then if those questions, if a pool of 200 questions are given to a teacher, it will be very easy to concentrate on that, because you know that, 50 questions will come out of that. And then you put your weight in there. It will be very possible, because if 250 will come out of those 200, then you're going to ensure that you concentrate on the 200. And it's very possible that, of course, you get everything. But again, one of the callers was questioning about the future of the professionals. And I want to say that when those students who did not, who came with funny grains to join some courses, many times they don't make it through. It will be too hard for them. Either they will be discontinued, either they will take so long until they give up. So it is most likely that those students who come with their fake grades do not make it to the graduation list.
So there will be natural attrition.
Yes.
You did not really qualify to be to join the degree on medicine and pharmacy. I mean, and surgery. You are definitely not going to survive the 6 years.
Most likely you are not going to survive it to the graduation list, because even the first year is going to be so tough for you. Remember, these are courses that are also practical, so you'll be you'll be required to do some practicals, and if you are not up to that, then in the first year you are going to just give up, just either resign or before the discontinuation comes, and perhaps join other courses that you think that they are going to be easier for you
to do. We want to thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us for the last 2 hours and also engaging with the listeners and callers who've called in this morning. Moses Kimani is an education expert. Onesimus Mateo is also an education expert. He's National Organizing Secretary of the University's Academic Staff Union. Asanteni sana. Thank you for tuning in to Kenya's biggest conversation today. We'll be back tomorrow morning, God willing, from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. From now until 11 is some uninterrupted music and then Sugar and Spice. Come on, from 11 until 2 p.m. Have a lovely one. It's 10 o'clock.